So we are recording so that this can be shared with anyone who could not be here.
Fantastic.
Okay, are we allowed to record ourselves? Is that okay? I mean, just record this from our own Zoom.
There'll be whoever's asking, because it's a blur of faces. We'll be putting a YouTube video on the channel in a few days' time. So
well, thank you, Darren.
To record your own.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So what are we up to now, Susan? Have you got the numbers?
We've got 126.
Okay, I think
Look down on the left where it says audio. See what that.
All right, I will do a little muting.
So assuming we have a quorum, there'll be more and more folks coming in, and Suzanne, I think, can let those folks in, right, Susan, as they're coming in?
Yes.
Fantastic.
You didn't even know these people.
Okay.
Don't forget to mute everyone if you're not speaking.
Else chaos reigns. Okay, let me do the intros and welcome everybody. It's wonderful to see so many of you take the time out of your busy practices to join us here today. Really very much appreciated. Let me briefly talk about why we're here for this AI workshop. The summer saw we put a market survey out to litigators.
Darren, you're muted now.
You're muted, Darren.
I'll start that again. You would think I would know how to use Zoom after 4 years or so. Apologies. Let me start that again, assuming that you heard nothing of that. So first of all, thank you all so much for joining us. I recognize many friends and members here today. First of all, why we're here. AI workshop. Let me share screen for a moment, assuming that I remember how to do that. Screen. Second. Okay, can everybody see this? This is the question on AI that the members responded to. Susan, sharing okay?
Yes.
Wonderful, good, okay. So, have you begun incorporating generative AI and tech into any aspects of your ADR practice? Check statements that apply. By far the number one answer was no, but I'm interested to learn how other members are using it. So that there's, as with anything is in the legal sector, there's generally a little reluctance to sort of adopt new technologies. I'll refer back to the webcast of 2020 in a little while with Susan, but the second answer was no, and I'm not likely to. I think this tech sets a worrying precedent, and it's going to take over all our lives, etc. So there's a little reluctance, or a lot of reluctance, across the ADR sector in particular to adopt this new technology. Now, if we rewind a few years, my brother is something of a fully, I'm a tech nerd, but he's a fully fledged tech nerd. And he notified me of this technology called GPT-3 3 years ago, and was one of the early beta testers, and was actually using 2.5, 2.6. So I spent a weekend in early 2023 playing with this GPT-3 chatbot. And by the end of the day, I was blown away. There's a thing called the Turing test, a lot of you know about. Can a computer convince a quorum of humans that it's also a human? And by the end of that, the Turing test was dead and buried. This thing was, having conversations, remembering points from early on. There was an early version of the upload feature where you could have it sort of analyze a spreadsheet. So the tech was immediately fascinating, and it was clear it was going to be a game changer. Whether it would be of practical use to mediators at the time, I didn't think there was any really indication that it was ready for prime time, and it could co-pilot a mediation or be of any assistance along those lines. Fast forward 3 years, Susan, I think it's almost 3 years to the week, right?
Yeah.
And now we're on GPT. I've stuck with the GPT family for my own work. And it's to the point of this technology is indistinguishable from magic at times. Now there are, for anything business related, case in point, full disclosure here, that report I sent out. So I had the Excel chart from the survey, I had all the data. I then had to put that into a pretty format that I could send out to the members and make it, something that they would enjoy reading, hopefully. The cover design, all AI, of course. I didn't sit there for a week designing that. I typed a few things into Grok, I think, for that, and it spat out an amazing, where is it? Let's share screen again.
Samurai Blue were the first team to qualify back in March and reached the round of 16 all times, including in Qatar 3 years ago.
Showing this again. So let's full disclosure what I did and didn't. The image was all AI generated. The letter was from me. The map was generated in house. Most of the commentary on the, for example, the AI technology adoption. I would say probably the first draft of that was done by the AI. It really wasn't in my voice, so I insisted on a rewording of it. A lot of the sort of insights as to what it means when people prefer to use Word as opposed to Clio, etc. Most of that commentary was AI. I mean, again, I would say somewhere in the region of, let's go back. Somewhere in the region of 50% of that report was AI generated, and then I'll sort of tweak it. For anything business related at this stage in 2025 going into 2026, I'd urge you all to play with GPT, whatever your weapon of choice is. It's invaluable at getting rid of a blank page and giving you a first draft. It might be perfect, it might be so-so, but I estimate I'd saved at least 3 days worth of work working with the AI to generate those reports. The big question, can it be used safely during a mediation? Can it be a tool to use in real time or at the end of the day when the parties are nearly there, etc.? That is the $1 million question that Susan is going to be addressing today. There are obviously very large ethical concerns, confidentiality, which packages can guarantee the enterprise requirements needed to make sure it's a sandbox that is yours alone. Okay, let me get to the introduction. I've been looking forward to hearing this myself. Whenever I'm around Susan and Lija, I learn something. I think we'll all go through that process today. My good friend, I'll skip the tradition of ladies first just for a moment. My good friend Lee J. Berman will be familiar to retreat attendees of the last 15 years or so. He's one of the world's foremost mediation trainers. He began as a full-time mediator over 30 years ago, successfully mediating over 3,000 matters. He's a charter member of NADN, a master mediator and panelist with the AAA and ICDR, a distinguished fellow of the IAM, International Academy of Mediators. Chambers USA ranked him as band 1 among the 13 top commercial mediators in the US. Who's Who Legal named him as one of the 10 global thought leaders in North America, and ADR Times named him to their Who's Who in ADR. A respected trainer, Lee J founded the American Institute of Mediation after retiring as Pepperdine's Law School's Mediating the Litigated Case program. Lee J has lectured at top universities across the US and abroad, and has trained judges, attorneys, and business leaders across North America, Europe, and the Middle East. In 2017, Lee J was presented with NADN's inaugural Distinguished Neutral of the Year Award in recognition of national excellence in the practice of mediation and for its exemplary skills as an ADR trainer. Now, all of that said, Lee J and I are merely here today to help facilitate the meeting and cheer on our presenter and for the day, my dear friend Susan Guthrie. Susan is quite simply one of the leading family mediators and trainers in the US, or indeed the world today. With over 30 years experience as a mediator and lawyer, Susan shifted her focus to empowering other legal and ADR professionals. To date, she has educated over 25,000 professionals worldwide on the integration of new technologies into their practices. More recently, she's the creator and host of the highly rated podcast Divorce and Beyond and Making Money Mediating, which now have over 5 million streams. In 2024, she served her term as chair of the American Bar Association's ADR section. Although her own mediation practice is specialized in family law, she is an honorary member of the National Academy of Distinguished Neutrals in recognition for her outstanding contributions to our community of ADR professionals. Now, just last month, Susan was invited onto the Oprah Winfrey podcast, which is amazing and obviously, something of a career highlight, I would guess. But let me cast our minds back to February of 2020 for a moment, when Susan's real brand burst onto the scene. Many of the legacy members will recall that NADN and Susan and I did an emergency broadcast to the nation. I think it was around February the 20th, 2020, just as things were blowing up and things hadn't yet shut down, but it was clear that we were coming to that. And Susan and I did a 2.5, 3 hour webcast. The fun thing was it went out to all of the members of NADN at the time, which was, I think, 700, 800, 900 members. At some point early on in the process, I'm not sure what the numbers are today, I'm sure it's far less. Word got out that there was a webcast that would solve the incoming COVID problem and teach everybody about this thing called Zoom. So we did the webcast, and at some point, 10, 15 minutes in, the 700, 800 invitees clicked up to 1,200, 1,300. It was clear most of the industry had got the link and were tuning in to save their proverbial asses in the coming months and learn how to get onto Zoom. So that was the point at which, to this day, Susan, I think you have members at various events coming. You saved my practice.
All the time.
Yes.
All the time.
So terrific though Oprah is, I think the one of the career highlights is surely the Make Scrabble emergency broadcast we did in the very early days of the pandemic, for which we're eternally grateful. Okay, without further ado, let me pass the floor to our esteemed speaker for the day, Susan. Susan, take it away. Can't wait to hear what you've got to teach us.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for having me back for the Deja Vu. It's that was one of certainly my most memorable programs ever. That was the first time I think I had 1,200 people on a screen, or many screens, and it certainly kicked off a storm for me. And the best part was I became a member of NADN as a result. So I've been able to spend time with you all now for the many years. And I'm really excited to be sort of back for 2.0, because when I popped on those years ago to talk about Zoom, most of you didn't have a lot of experience of Zoom, and I just happened to be lucky to have been using it for a few years for a different reason than a pandemic. But that's really what got us all started. And in many ways, where we find ourselves today with a new technology, Zoom was new to us back then. AI tools are new to us today. And I promise you, we may be here again in a year or 2 years or 3 years, and it may be virtual reality mediation that we're talking about, which is already here, but we're not talking about it today. But the technology is not going to stop, and it will continue to come along, and there'll be things to talk about. The other reason I love doing programs for NADN is I always get the amazing wingman. When you get to have Lee J here, everything works better and everything's a lot more fun. So I wanted to say Lee J is here. He's going to be helping me out with some of the role plays and things that we're doing, but he's also here to be the conduit for questions and information that you may be requesting. So feel free to drop things in the chat or send him a direct chat. If it's something that should be answered in the moment, he has full authority to just ask me. We are also going to try and keep and reserve some time at the end for Q&A. I'll do my best on that. I have a lot to teach you in 3 hours, and it's just a drop in the bucket, really. But the idea today is to have a little fun with this. I know there's nervousness around this tool. Totally appropriate. We are going to talk about that, but it also has a lot of possibility for us. So my goal for today is to really sort of help you find your way through the concerns to the point where you feel like you can use this in a way that is helpful to you, whether it's in the room or out of the room. Just a couple of quick housekeeping things. I'm working off of 2 screens. So if you see me looking down, it's not that I'm ignoring you. It's just I have another screen set up here in front of me that is where I'm going to be displaying different documents and the slides from and all that. That way I can see more of you on the screen in front of me, the big screen here. I love it when people nod or, have reactions. Please feel free to, be on screen. I love to be able to see you because that's when I know if what I'm saying is helpful or not. The other aspect is I know some of you are already using this technology. Please feel free to drop your insights into the chat for your colleagues and for me. I learn as much from attendees as I hopefully know and can share with you all. I learn something new every time I do one of these programs, and it's from, this is a very malleable, adaptable technology, and we all use it a little differently. And so you may have some fabulous way that you're using it, whether, everyone's using it that way or not, but it's helpful to others to know. So please feel free to share. We love that. The other just last quick thing, it is helpful to, if you have the ability to do this on 2 screens, so one so that you can see the slides, the demos, all that, and then maybe have another one open that you can access ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Grok, whatever your favorite tool is. If you're not sure which one to use, go with whichever one that you have an account with, or if you are a Gmail, if you have a Gmail, open up Gemini because that's associated with Google, and you'll be able to just sign in with your Gmail address. And that's about it. We're going to get started if you guys are ready. Who's excited? Anybody excited to learn how to use AI today?
Oh,
I get excited.
The reactions button, maybe just give people
Oh,
a
yeah,
signature.
absolutely. So since we have so many people, it's easiest if you do have a reason to raise your hand, although better to chat with Lee J so that he can see it. But if you have something that you want to add in or it's important to say, use either the raise hand emoji down on the toolbar, or if you go into React, if you don't have a raise hand emoji, go into React, click on the heart, and there should be a raise hand in there for you. Okay. That'll move you up to the top of the screen. I love it. You guys are all finding your emojis. See, I feel like I'm still teaching a little Zoom here. So, but now we're going to transition over to our AI tools, our buddies, my best friends that I use every day, all day. And I'm not suggesting you all need to do that, but I think, one of my goals is really to share some of the excitement that I have around what these tools can do for you. All right, here we go with everything's a little bit slower because we have 100+ people on Zoom, and so the technology is just going to move a little more slowly, even when we're doing demos. So just bear with me because everything won't move just as quickly as it always does. But this is a hands-on workshop. I do want to emphasize that. For distinguished neutrals, you're all distinguished neutrals, and that my real goal is to get you to put your hands on these tools, to give them a try. I try throughout the program to give you suggestions and exercises because, and this is true if you remember back to that Zoom program. That Zoom program was me showing you a lot of what to do with Zoom, but you can watch someone do something over and over again. The example that I remember best was I showed people how to make breakout rooms back in the day when that was, something that we had never done before. And by far, the number one follow-up email that I got for the next 2 years was, Susan, I can't remember how to make breakout rooms. Right? I still get one every once in a while, but I had shown it 2 or 3 times in the program. So these tools are very much tools that you need to use before you're ever going to understand truly how they work. So today's your day. I'm going to give you ways to use them. So get your fingers on there. It is a hands-on workshop. All right, so let's dive in. Everybody always asks, they didn't get the materials. We did send out a couple of emails in advance, but you can get the materials, use the QR code, or you can just go to my website, susaneguthrie.com, and you'll find on the menu NADN-AI. All of the materials are there to download at your leisure. The ones that would be really good to have throughout the program would be and by the way, everyone, I went into thankfully somebody, told me, believe it or not, I couldn't find the control to turn off the ding dong. I went in, I turned off the ding dong, I updated the settings, and the ding dong is still happening. So that's a Zoom problem, not an us problem, but I do apologize. I did try to turn it off. You may want to have the in the room exercises available on your screen, because that's going to give you the information about the exercises that we're going to do in the room. All right, so here they are. They're going to be there, by the way, and I added a brand new one this morning. So if you downloaded them ahead of time, I uploaded a prompt library for you all this morning. I'm always updating this program because the technology is moving so quickly. All right, well, Darren talked about this, but I have to tell you, when I saw the NADN survey, this is the screen or the survey question that really popped out at me, because I just added it up the other day since this AI dropped, and we'll talk in a minute about how long ago that was. I've done over 150 AI-centered programs. So I feel like I've talked to everyone in the world about how to use AI. And then I saw this and I'm like, well, apparently I haven't talked to everyone in the world, because my goal is to teach people how they can use it, people who are interested, people who have concerns. That's all that I'm trying to do. But when you all took the survey, or those who answered, 70% between the not yet but interested and I'm not adopting it because I'm concerned, 70% of the participants aren't using it. And this technology. Now, one thing I point out to people all the time is, back when you are all on the screen with me in the days of Zoom, in the early days of COVID, there was an urgency to learning that technology because our rooms were closed. Our conference rooms, like the pretty one behind Lee J there, right? There wasn't going to be meeting with anyone there. The world was shut down. So everybody felt a great deal of urgency to learn this new technology. When it comes to these AI tools, or using artificial intelligence in a variety of different ways, I think people have a little bit of a perception that it's optional. And I would say to you, there's the same urgency to a certain degree is around AI as much as it was around Zoom. It's just taking a little bit longer for us to get our heads around it. And that is because the technology is vastly more sophisticated than Zoom. Zoom is actually a relatively simple technology, and you all picked it up. And then the nuance of it, because it's not just knowing how to make breakout rooms, right? It's knowing how to create rapport through a screen instead of across a table. But you all, you're the distinguished neutrals. You all figured that out in relatively short time. This technology is Zoom to the nth degree on steroids, right? So it's a lot harder to get our heads around, but it is just as important in the world of working that we get our heads around it. And that's why I've done over 150 programs, because I feel very passionately that it's important for us all and for our practices to get on top of this. So Some of the things I hope that you will leave with today, my goal is for you to leave with today is advanced prompt and context engineering. You've probably heard about prompt engineering. Context engineering is the additional layer of adding appropriate context. They sort of go together. I want you to be able to apply confidentiality and security safeguards so that you feel like you have the right guardrails in place to be able to use it. How to spot and correct hallucinations or avoid them in the first place. How to mitigate bias through structured prompting. I want to show you some ways, and this is where Lee J and I will have a little bit of fun on how you might use AI. We're going to jump ahead to some more sophisticated stuff just to show it to you, not saying go use this tomorrow in your practice, but things like option generation, reality testing for clients, doing risk analysis, decision trees, visual aids. There's a lot that we can do that's actual practice, more advanced. But then also just how you can increase your efficiency while maintaining your ethical standards, right? That's the balance that we need to find. So does anybody, when I used to do my Zoom program, or as we got a little later into the pandemic, I would do a program and I would show March 13th, 2020, or March 16th, 2020 on there. And I would say to people, what's the significance of March 16th, 2020? Darren knows it because it was March 19th where we were on screen or something like that. But does anybody know what November 30th of 2022 represents? It's an equally significant day when it comes to technology. Nope. All right. Oh, Doug Mintz. Hello, Doug Mintz.
When ChatGPT went online.
It is. That is the day that ChatGPT became widely available from OpenAI, free plan, anyone could start using it, right? So we are here today on December 5th, 2025, more than 3 years later. More than 3 years later, yet many of us are not using it, right? Many of us have not found a way to comfortably insert this into our work, which is why I assume we have so many people here today, which is wonderful. Because what has held you back is totally appropriate. We'll talk more about that. And this is the type of a training workshop that is here to help you get beyond that so that you can start moving forward. Because other industries, including the industries that our clients come from, medical, some of the legal, business, manufacturing, construction, they're all using it. People in the workplace, our clients are coming to us. Insurance for sure is using it, right? Anything where statistics and analysis are relevant, they are already using it. And so we are a little bit behind the 8 ball on that. The more we start using it now, the more we're going to find it in our rooms. We're going to find it in the rooms, people using the AI, whether it's us or the participants in the room, or if it's the subject matter of the dispute that's in front of us. Has anybody had an AI-centered or AI-adjacent litigation yet in their room?
Raise hands.
No one? It's coming. It's for sure coming. I've actually been doing a series of LinkedIn articles for each. I did one on healthcare, one on labor and employment. The next one's on construction, of how the clients are using AI and how it's eventually going to show up in our rooms as conflict or litigation. So let's dive in, and we're going to start with the basics and what I hope gives you all a feeling of control, because many of us come from legal backgrounds. Most of us, I suspect, come from legal backgrounds. And if there's any more industry that is more a bunch of control freaks than lawyers, I don't know who it is. We like to have control. So what I want you to know is the good part about these technologies is they don't do anything unless we prompt them into doing it, right? We set them up. We get the flow going. We control what goes into them, at least for what we're using them for, and we control what comes out of them. So literally, AI success is in your hands. So when I talked earlier about getting your hands on the keyboard, That is because you, the user, the human in the room, the thing that we're all worried about, the robots coming and taking our jobs and all that, that's not how this technology is set up and works, at least not today. It is set up that we set it in motion. So we're going to talk about how we need to work with it to be successful in using it. Because the biggest mistakes that we've seen, and I'm going to go over the three biggest ones that are being made routinely, but they are because of user error. User error, not as much that the technology is failing us. And we have the perception that it's the technology failing us. But if people had used it correctly, they wouldn't have had the problems. So that's what we're going to talk about. But first, one of the things we need to sort of break ourselves from is this, what I call Google brain. And it makes tons of sense that we have Google brain. What is Google brain? Google brain is when you're sitting there at dinner with friends and someone says, what time is the movie tomorrow night? Or what are you watching that new show on Netflix? What's it about? Or, you know, who it was the last president of Yugoslavia? What do? We grab these guys, our little phones, our little microcomputers. Did you know that these phones, the computers that sent the first men to Mars, were less powerful than the phones that we carry around in our pockets these days, right? We open up these little guys and we open up a Google search and we go find the answer in seconds. That's how we think we use this technology, right? We see it as a retrieval technology. Anyone want to guess how many Google searches they've done in their life? Lee J, how many Google searches do you think you've done?
I was just trying to think. Oh, it's way over 500,000.
Right? And so when you do something repetitively, do you get a little bit trained on that's how you do it?
Yeah.
Right. So you think you might have sort of Google brain about how you interact with this little bar where you're supposed to type in some sort of question?
Exactly what you're saying. That's what I find I use Chat GPT for the most, which is a failing, right? I mean, it's like buying a motorcycle and pushing it with your feet.
That's exactly it. You're fabulous. See, this is why I love having Lee J in the room, because but makes perfect sense that that's how you'd use it, because we are Google brained. We are used to asking it questions. It gives us an answer, and off we go to the next question. It's a done deal. And so we are very much trained that way. So when we see the prompt bar, that's exactly what we do. We ask it a question, we get the answer, and off we go. There's a lot of problems with that because that is not what this technology really is. I love that analogy, Lee J. It's like buying get your first Harley and you push it down the road, which is hard to do. They're heavy. But, we need to change how we think about this technology. So I call it the difference between a Labrador Retriever and a wise old owl. The Labrador Retriever is Google. You could call this cute guy Google. Right? The Labrador Retriever, we throw the ball, which is our question. It goes and gets the answer, picks up the ball, brings it back. Most Labrador Retrievers will drop it at your feet, not mine. And you're done unless you throw it again, which is another question in the back. It's a retriever. And Google is a retrieval system. It retrieves information. That's what it was set up for. But this technology is not really a retrieval system. It can do it with certain limitations, such as hallucinations. We'll talk about those in a little while, but it can do it. But it has so much more capability than that. And the capability is the wise old owl. I love this little guy. Of course, I had AI make these images, right? No question. It's a first shot with both of them in making these, and I wanted it in the same. But I said, I want a wise old owl that reflects the nature of AI technology and the conversation that you're going to have with it. And it came up with this, little warm and friendly guy who's in his slippers, and you're going to sit down with him. He's got all those books behind him. He's read every single one of them and memorized them. And you're going to sit down with him and have a far-reaching conversation with him that could be about anything you don't even know because you haven't sat down with him yet, right? So you're just going to sit down and jam with the wise old owl. Very different than what you might be sitting down with your Labrador retriever to do. So there's a very important part that starts before you even put your hands on. And I will tell you, when I work with people, I even do a lot of private trainings with professionals who want you to. Oh goodness. There you go. Thank you, Christopher. I do a lot of private trainings with people who sort of want to jumpstart to get in. And when I ask them what's sort of holding them back, I get a variety of different answers. But one of the most common is, well, I tried it out. Like Lee J mentioned, I tried it out. I typed in something. It gave me an answer. It was okay. It wasn't spectacular. I didn't see really, I mean, it was okay. If you were underwhelmed or you are underwhelmed with the output of an AI tool, it's likely a you problem, not the technology. It's likely what you put in, not what you got out. And that's not, again, not your fault because we have Google Brain. So part of this is, how do we retrain ourselves? I will tell you the number one way you retrain yourself. You get your hands on the keyboard and you start working with these tools. And I'm going to say this now, and I'll say this several times during the program, but the best way to do that is in low-hanging fruit, non-ethically challenged ways. Use it for your thought leadership pieces. You need to come up with a topic for your next LinkedIn article or the next CLE program you're going to put an RFP in on, or something like that, where it's not an ethical challenge. Don't open it up in a mediation session and start using it in a live mediation session. There are challenges there. You need to be a skilled and competent user before that might happen. It's not for everyone. But use it for the low-hanging fruit. Use it to help you figure out what everyone says to me, Susan, I want to post more on LinkedIn, but I don't know what to post. Guess who's there to help you? Your buddy ChatGPT can come up with hundreds of things you might want to post about. And I can share more about that. By the way, I've given you, because we can only cover so much in the time we have, I've given you a lot of materials that you can use beyond this to get your fingers on the keyboard. But let's look at the difference just so that you see in real time what the difference is. Here's a Labrador Retriever prompt. This is what I see a lot of people putting in. If I ask them, what does a general prompt look like that you might put in? Draft a mediation clause for a commercial settlement agreement. It's giving, it's pretty standard. And here's what I ran it. So rather than having to do a demo on this, keep time short. The parties agree that any disputes related to this agreement will be submitted to mediation before filing a lawsuit. The parties will choose a mediator and try to resolve the matter in mediation. If mediation is unsuccessful, either party may proceed with legal action. It gets the job done, but I don't know how many people in this room would want to use it, depending on their needs. And so if you are a Labrador Retriever user, you might look at this, having given it a puppy prompt, and think, that's not really, I'm just going to go back to using what I always use. But let's look at what a more appropriate or more wise old owl prompt would look like. And I've highlighted here where we've added relevant information. So act as an experienced civil mediator, drafting a settlement agreement clause for a complex commercial dispute. The parties want a forward-looking mediation provision requiring them to return to mediation in good faith before initiating future litigation or arbitration. Use professional neutral language that reflects high-value commercial practice and supports ongoing cooperation. So we have added a lot more in that could have come out of many of your practice books, right? These are words and context that might apply to many of your practices, giving you a much different output and hopefully a more usable or relevant. So now I'm not going to read the whole thing out. Can you all see it on the screen? All right, but you can see, first off, it's longer. So we're already halfway there. And then it's gone into a great deal more relevant, hopefully, information. Anybody out there, want to give an opinion on the difference between number 1 and the wise old owl prompt output? You can just unmute and shout it out. But it's, gone into parties to agree to engage in confidential, good faith mediation as a prerequisite. It'll be conducted by a mutually selected neutral. The last one didn't say anything about mutually selected. They'll participate constructively, provide appropriate information. It's given a time frame. It says what will happen if they can't resolve. More usable?
Susan, can I jump in here?
Absolutely. Oh, hi, Tom.
Yeah, I'm looking at this from the perspective of a future arbitrator if things don't work. One of the things that jumps out at me, because I've seen this happen where you have these pre-arbitration mediation clauses, is disputes about whether the parties actually did what they were supposed to do. What I see here is a lot of very subjective terms, which are fertile ground for disputes about whether the parties did what they were supposed to do. And if they didn't, what does the arbitrator do, or the judge for that matter?
Sure. And that's a really good point. One, that's arbitration, and this is a mediation clause. So there's a little bit of a difference nuance there. But
there is. But my point is that if you are, this is a good start. Mm-hmm. But if I were counsel looking at this, or a party and business entity looking at this, I would say, boy, that's got a lot of wishy-washy general language, which people will interpret in different ways to suit their own objectives. And I'd make it more objective, I guess.
If I may, this is only the first draft. And what you've just done is identify what Susan's about to show us about why chat is so nimble, because you have a brain that's going to see things in this, Tom, that not everybody's going to. This may do it for a lot of folks. And you're saying, no, even as an arbitrator who's going to see this later, I would want to see better. And then you can tighten this up. But Susan, let me just play devil's advocate for a moment. Somebody just put in the chat, I'm paraphrasing because I can't find it now, but effectively, if I'm going to work that hard to build the prompt, I might as well just compose the clause. What would you say to that?
So, and you can do that every single time, or you can build a great prompt, and we're going to talk about prompt libraries in a moment, that has maybe what I call Mad Libs prompts, where you can fill in the blank so that it can be modified for different types of matters. Most of you don't have just exactly the same type of matter every single time, where you're going to be able to cut and paste out of your prompt library, fill in those Mad Lib blanks, and get a curated response each and every time. But I do want to highlight Lee J's comments were spot on, and Tom's analysis was spot on. That is exactly what a responsible professional should do with the output. Here, all I was talking about is what an initial prompt looks like, how a more nuanced and contextual prompt will give you a more nuanced and contextual answer. But Lee J's 100% right. This is only the first one.
We have a request. Could you flip one slide back and show that prompt?
Certainly.
Now
here's the prompt.
What you do.
Absolutely. Here's the prompt. Right. And you have the slides, by the way, everyone. So if you want to go, yes, Sly, you're awesome. I dictate almost everything into these tools, and I'll show you that when we start doing some actual demos. But you will see in the prompt bar a little microphone, just like you see on your phone. And I love using the verbal to text, because you can say a lot more, you can give a lot more nuance, and it sounds like you. And these tools, one of the other things about these tools is they start to learn us and how we speak, how we phrase things, how we like things, and it starts to then give us more of what we are looking for. So that's another answer to, I could sit down and draft the prompt myself, or draft the clause myself if I'm going to take time to draft the clause. It's going to learn from you drafting this clause to help you draft other clauses, draft entire agreements, draft emails, draft other letters. So you're training the AI on how you like to do things. Whereas if you just go sit down at a word processor on a Word document and do it, you're going to, you're just training yourself. Part of the idea of these tools is to start training your AI to do the work for you.
And Susan, I'm sure you're going to get to this, but one of the things I've started doing with mine is it gives me this brief answer because it wants to be quick. It's that balance between quick and thorough, right? It gives me the quick answer and it says at the end, and I can do a deeper dive into this if you want to. And I find myself saying yes almost all the time to that. And so I finally just said to my Chat GPT walled garden account that I have, I said to it, can you please always just take that next step without asking me? I always prefer the deeper dive. And it said, got it. I'll do that from now on. And now it is. I mean, it learns that way. We can teach it actively.
Wise old owl, not the Labrador Retriever. You don't even have to give it a treat, right? Your lab, to get the lab to drop the ball can be a war. The wise old owl is going to do it as many times as you want and in the way that you want it. And that once you've sat with him 10 times, he's going to know a lot more about you, that wise old owl, than if you're doing it yourself. So realize I'm showing you one possible use of, drafting one single type of clause here. I can't show you all of the millions of different ways that you could use these technologies. This is just one example. And you're not wrong. In that one moment, you might be able to sit down and draft the clause yourself or go take one of your old ones and repurpose it. That's what a lot of us do, right? We just have our templates and we go and just fill them in. But if we can start training our AI, the more complex matters, we're going to be able to, notice I'm going to say, work with it as a tool to draft for us. I don't use ChatGPT or any of them to draft entire documents for me. I work with it as a tool to help me draft. And that's the difference. And so Tom's question was excellent because what Tom's question leads to is this is not perfect the way that it came out. Rarely is it perfect the way that it comes out the first time. I always tell people, I think it's on one of the slides coming up, the first iteration that you get after your first prompt is a rough draft. It is a rough draft, right? So when these are just good, solid best practices when you want good outputs. There's a prompt structure that goes beyond a Google question. This is more how you would talk to your wise old owl. It's the RCTO framework. You want to have the role for the AI in it, not your role, although you can tell it that as well. But you want to tell the AI, I want you to be drafting this in the form as if you are a well-skilled, top-tier, distinguished neutral in this field. You want to give it that context. Context is everything. The more general you are on context, the broader that output is going to be, and you're going to have to do more refining. You want to give it a specific task to do, and you want to tell it what form you want the output to come in. I want it streamlined. I want it in plain English. I want it in terms that a sophisticated legal scholar would appreciate, whatever, no legal conclusions, they're all here, but you want to give it the RCTO on what you are asking it to do. And again, it's still only the initial. And this goes to Tom and Lee J. This is exactly what they were talking about. The pro tip is iteration is your superpower. You don't have the ability with Google to have iteration, meaning asking follow-up questions, asking for revisions, asking for refinements, telling it to do better, telling it that's not what I wanted. Whatever you would say to an assistant, you can say it to ChatGPT. By the way, you can't offend it, so you don't even have to be as careful about what you say. Although I'm usually polite to it because you never know when they're going to take over the world. Your iteration, you're asking those follow-up questions or for follow-up revisions is your superpower in using these things. So that instead of you going back and redoing it and refining it, it will do that work, but based upon your instructions. So even simple ones like make this more client friendly, or add a section on common goals, or like Lee J said, at the bottom, you're going to see it has suggested follow-ups. You can ask it to do those things. You'll see those more. But the RCTO is a basic format for good prompting, clean prompting, and then knowing that your iteration is going to come. All right, quick and easy exercise, everyone. But first chance to get your fingers on the keyboard. And you can just drop this in the chat. Like, we should just get a whole bunch of chats. I'm gonna give you a Labrador prompt, a puppy prompt, and you're going to turn it into an owl prompt using RCTO. And I've given you RCTO, remember, role, context, tone, and output. So simple puppy prompt is prepare a mediation opening statement. And just go ahead in the chat. I'm going to open up my chat here and just change it. Just make it a better, where'd my chat go? Oh, there it is, right? Turn this into an owl prompt. Give it the role you want it to play. Give it the context of the type of matter, right? Give it the tone, professional, learned. And give it what form you want the output in. Short, professional, warm. How we doing here? Sorry, trying to get down. Kirsten, sorry about that. You are the first to do this. Thank you so much. In a complex breach of contract civil litigation, provide a mediation opening statement that is professional and warm. I love it. That is going to get a much more refined response than the one the puppy prompt that's up here. She has another one, which is great. I'm an experienced mediator and need an opening statement for my mediation in a professional, warm tone using bullet points and including all important elements less than 5 minutes. Now she's given it a time frame. Love that, right? It doesn't know. More context here. And draft a mediation opening statement in a boundary dispute case where the neighbors live next to each other amicably for 20 years, but now dispute an area that does not impact the value to their properties, and each has spent over $100,000 in fees so far. I like the smiley face. We've all had that case or seen something similar in our fields. Right? These are wonderful, and this is the type of thought that you want to put into your prompt. As a female, interesting. Hillary, I'd love to know why you wanted to point out that you were a female lawyer mediator with 15 years experience in wrongful death and catastrophic injury cases. Prepare a mediator's opening statement in a case involving sexual assault by an elected state official where the perpetrator is a teenaged minor. I'm just curious on the thought process.
It actually, that's not something I would actually ever highlight. And so, I mean, it's not necessary for one thing, but I'm just curious more than anything else about what it gives me back.
That's awesome. I love your curiosity.
I'm kind of giving it, suspecting that it's not going to be something I would use, but I'm curious about what it tells me, because it might give me something that, depending on what separate conversation I'm having with somebody, there's something useful. The 15-year experience part, as far as mediators go, I'm probably in the, I'm not a newbie, but I'm certainly not as seasoned as some people with multiple decades under their belt. And so to the extent that sometimes these statements are being drafted by, people who've retired after many years on the bench or something, I'm not that person. And the last thing, I picked the sexual assault because it's different than catastrophic injury. I mean,
sure, there's a lot of nuance to it.
So again, I'm just kind of curious about what is this going to give me back?
And
more than I think. I don't actually think that that's the best prompt, but I'm curious about what it's going to give me back.
So I love that curiosity. Richard said in the chat, which is fabulous. Iteration is your superpower, but curiosity is the fuel. It is. Just being curious enough to sit down and play with ChatGPT or one of them to see what comes out of it with that is part of how you start to learn with it. And you've already had the ability to see that that sort of a prompt is going to come up with a very different type of output than maybe a more neutral one, right? That's how you learn this. That's a wonderful way to go about it. I highly encourage you to follow that thought thread. We can't do it in here, but anyone who's, really wondering, at some point, try we're going to talk about bias in a little bit, which will, I think, go a little deeper into this, but that's exactly the curiosity. Get your fingers on here and start, I always call it playing with it. You're not, when you do that, Hillary, you're not doing anything that's going to harm you. You're educating yourself on what the output might be. DJ?
Just tapping into the fear that people expressed at the start in the survey. For those who are concerned that this is going to come and put us all out of business, it may be able to write a glorious opening statement for exactly the context and the use that Hillary just put into it. What it doesn't know is, should I do a joint session at all in a sexual assault case or harassment case or whatever, or who should I meet with in what order? All the human elements that drive how we approach a case like that, it could manufacture, but it's going to manufacture based on articles that have been written and that sort of thing. It won't know the people in your mediation. So when you do a pre-mediation Zoom meeting with each side or something like that, and you learn who people are, and your instincts tell you to do or not do certain things, that's the thing that sets us apart from this remarkable technology that can help us in a lot of ways. So just for those who are concerned, it's going to put us all out of business. Not in those contexts, it's not.
At this point, the robots are not coming for our jobs. Colin Rule will not, anyone who was at the retreat last year heard him say he won't say it now that they're coming for our jobs. He won't say they'll never come from our jobs. So I listened to Colin, but right now the control is in our hands. So I love all of these that you all are putting in here. I see Amy asked a quick question I want to answer because I get this one a lot. Do we need subscriptions to Chat or Gemini or Claude? You do not. What you get with the lowest level of subscription is more usage, essentially, and higher powered versions. So if you find yourself starting to like using it, you're going to get cut off at some point because you get a limited amount of use or a limited amount of firepower in the version you get to use with the freebies. The other important fact for everyone in this room to know who is a neutral or an attorney is that the free versions also all use everything you put in there for training data, meaning training the models, meaning whatever you put in goes into the data set that is making up the answers, essentially. There's billions of data sets of information in there, but that's one of the things they're getting. Data is everything for AI. It feeds off the data, and they've run out of getting stuff that was already created. It's all in there, or most of it's in there. So now they're really searching for unused data and the stuff that we're creating now. And that's why they gave it to us for free. So that is not a safe environment for your client information, for security, etc. So the $20, however, if you buy the lowest version of any of those, doesn't get you security either. We'll talk about that in a little while as well, but just know that it gets you more power, more firepower, and longer hours of using it. But there are other versions that you can get for a little bit more money. If you're going to use them professionally, I'll cut to the chase now. You should get the enterprise versions of any of those that you're using. They all have enterprise versions. They're not even that much more expensive. I pay $60 a month instead of $20 a month for my Chat GPT. That is way worth it to me to have enterprise grade, and it's not using my data. And I don't even practice mediation anymore, so I'm not dealing with confidential information, but I just don't want I don't want them using my training data. So you don't need them. And while you're practicing, go ahead, use the free versions. See what one you like best or which ones you like best. I can tell you I pay for ChatGPT, I pay for Claude, and I pay for Gemini because I use them all day, every day, and they each one do different things better. ChatGPT is super creative. Gemini is great for being more accurate and on point. And Claude is a super writer. Claude is, and its deep research is fantastic. It's unbelievable. That changes too.
What did you say you like that Gemini's better at?
Gemini is more factually, it will pull facts and links to facts, and because it's hooked up to Google, it's Google's version. So back to Google Brain and Lee J's over 500,000 searches, all that data is out there available to it, and Google is still. The other one though is Perplexity. Perplexity's going after Google's market, and they're getting there. I mean, a lot of people really love Perplexity for that. I've been using the Gemini for a while. The reason a lot of people like Gemini is if you use G Suite, if you use Gmail, if you use Google Docs, if you use Sheets, Forms, any of the Google stuff, it's integrated. So it's lovely. People who use Microsoft like Copilot. I use Microsoft, but I don't like Copilot. I don't find it, for me, to be easy to use. So these, again, remember I was talking about these tools being very hands-on and getting to know you. You're also going to get to know them. They're different. They're created by different companies with different algorithms, with different data sets, although they cross over on data sets, but they are different. And so your interaction with them, just as they're getting to know you, you're going to get to know them, and you're going to make friends with different ones. Most of my clients have named their AIs. I have one friend who calls it Flow, FLO, one who calls it, I call it Chatty. I use ChatGPT the most, Chatty Cathy. Almost everyone ends up feeling like they've got a new best friend, and they name them eventually. So let's pop back to iteration, but we've talked about a lot of this. Your first answer is a rough draft. Your second, third, and fourth versions are almost always. Did see people commenting that sometimes it makes it worse. There is a balance between context and iteration. And I agree. You will get to a point where your iteration starts to make it messy. And so that is a balance you also are going to learn in using with them. Sometimes you've gone as far as you can in one prompt, and you may even want to start and open up a new prompt. Sometimes it's that you're not asking it the question in the way it's going to get you the information that you want. Practice is the only way, really is the only way to get better at these. All right. So I provided this in here, but a lot of it is,
Hey, how are you? What course is tubeless chat?
There we go. So I'm just going to do a quick demo here. I'm going to drop down stop sharing the slides. And I just want to do an iteration demo so you can sort of see that. Let me open up my buddy. Where's chat? Should we use chat? Yeah, let's use chat. All right, so here's our friend chat. Are we showing? Yeah. All right. Good to see you, Susan's voice. It's very friendly. It's always very friendly. And then I'm going to cut and paste some prompts just to keep this moving more quickly instead of typing them out. Again, with longer prompts, I'd probably speak them into the, let me just get back to ChatGPT. So see the little microphone there. If you wanted to speak, you could just tap that, or if you tap on this, it's going to open up the circle to speak to. But either way, it'll take dictation. I'm going to just paste in an initial prompt. Act as an experienced civil mediator, helping me create a professional intake form for complex commercial, employment, construction, and other civil matters. Draft a structured intake form that collects essential case information, party details, counsel information, counsel, key issues, procedural posture, and any logistical considerations I should be aware of. before the mediation. Keep the tone neutral and professional and organize the form so it's easy for parties of counsel to complete. So let's just hit that and see what it comes up with on our first go round. Here it comes. Below is a polished professional intake, decide mediation intake form, complex civil. This form is intended to gather essential information to ensure a productive and well-prepared mediation process. Please complete all applicable sections. And then it goes through and gives forms. It gives little check the box. It's given it to us in a form format. You could cut and paste this into a Word document. There's other things that you can do with that. You can ask it to create it as a PDF. You can ask it to create it as a Word document for you. In fact, I bet it offers to do that at the bottom, as Lee J said, but it's asking for all this nice information that I told it to ask for. It goes a little bit further: procedural posture, damages and claims overview, insurance coverage involved, mediation logistics, decision maker availability. It's not bad. It's given us a pretty good one. Now here it's giving us, I can put this into a clean fillable PDF. I can create a version tailored for website intake. That might be helpful. Prepare alternate versions for employment only, construction only, or commercial only. Add branding or integrate with your practice management system. It's offering to take us to that next step, but I want to iterate this a bit more. I want to ask a few more questions. So, and hone in on this a little bit more. So let me get back to, opened up the wrong thing. Here we go. So here's me asking it to make it a little bit, give it a little more structure and clearer categories. Here we go. So I'm going to paste it in. Refine this intake form, add more structure, clearer categories, and include sections for procedural posture. It did have that. Claims and defenses, damages or financial exposure, previous negotiation history, and any pending motions or deadlines. Add fields for party decision makers. So it had a lot of this in the original one, probably because I created these prompts on here. And so it knew I already did this exercise and it's already given me what I had iterated. But let's see what it does with the iteration. So now it's going to add in a lot of the information that we add. Now it did have some of that. Again, I use ChatGPT so often, it knows me so well. It gave me a lot in that first one, but it's got a lot more of the information. I'm going to throw it a little curveball when we get to the bottom because it's definitely not something that's in here. I'm going to ask it for add a cultural competence section to gather relevant information and include questions for trauma-informed accommodations. All right, now we're moving into something that it wasn't in there at all before. So now it's moved into asking this information, parties and decision makers, counsel information, procedural posture, claims and defenses, damage and financial exposure, negotiation and settlement. Here we go. Cultural competence and trauma-informed considerations. Now, here's one thing I'll say to you as a family law mediator. I don't want it to say trauma-informed as a headline in my intake form. That's not good. That's not good, right? And I probably don't want to say cultural competence. So I'd have it reiterate it, right? Please don't use the terms cultural competence or trauma-informed. In a client-facing document, right? So now I just hold it that because I don't want it ever in a client-facing document. So let's go down to where that is and see how it changed it. Usually comes up with pretty good terms to use. Participants' needs and considerations. Beautiful. Nice and neutral, right? Mm-hmm. Nice and neutral. It's asking for language preferences, communication style considerations, any other helpful context, environmental or process needs, safety or comfort considerations, confidential information for the mediator, optional for people to fill out, but asking if there are obstacles to negotiation, internal approval process, business or operational concerns, any relationship dynamics that we should know. That's always in a family attorney's, right? We want to know if there's been abuse in the past or, other things. But so it's changed it to get the information for me. Oh, it's asked if we want to be in-person, virtual, or hybrid, right?
No.
So it's creating a new intake form. Now, you could also have you can hit the little plus sign there. If you already have an intake form, you could upload your current intake form. If you're like me, you created your intake forms when you started your practice, and you probably haven't much updated them since then. Might be time. Maybe you want to put some trauma-informed and cultural competency questions in there. But you can do it by uploading your form and asking ChatGPT or any of the AIs to help you upgrade the form, make it more modern, and to have specific reference to things like cultural competency and trauma-informed practice. And it will help you refine yours. Yes, Lee J.
Just a quick one-off question. Somebody asked if you can tell Chat or one of them to format the document for WordPerfect, for example, and have it put it, yes?
Yes, you can tell it to do things in any format that it has. You can tell it to make it a PDF. You can tell it to indent your bullets. One of the things I mentioned beforehand that is the silliest little thing, but it saved me so much time, is I always am having to download Excel spreadsheets. For example, you all registered for this program and I needed to put all of your names and email addresses into my email so that I could send out the pre-session emails. Well, Zoom gives me this, like, all kinds of information about when you signed up for it, when, all of this, when all I really need is your name and your email address, but it needs to be in CSV, not in Excel. And it gives it to me in Excel. So all I did was upload the Excel and say, put this into a CSV spreadsheet with just the first and last name and email. And 2 seconds later, I had that. I didn't have to do anything more. Saved me so much time, right? It's wonderful. So if you like WordPerfect, if you like Microsoft Suite, a lot of people like to use our buddy Copilot, because that's the Microsoft tool. Those who do use it, as I mentioned, I just haven't found it very easy to work with. So I'm not a fan, but I have clients who absolutely love it. When you open up Word, it opens up Copilot right next to it, and you can work back and forth between the two. So Copilot's there helping you while you're working in Word. It'll open up when you're in Outlook to help you do your emails. It'll help. So it's really finding the system and the tools that work best for you. That just wasn't the tool for me. But I may change my mind because they are constantly changing as well. That is the other thing. Let me get back.
And Susan, they're also listening to you right now, so they're figuring it out.
It is. It is. I'm just going to say, you think these things aren't listening to you? The other day, my husband was talking about a brush hog. It's a thing that goes on the back of your tractor to like smooth out the ground. And suddenly Instagram started showing me ads for farm implements. I was like, hello, right? So here's another tip. As you are creating good prompts, as you are doing this, it is a fabulous idea to start capturing them for future use so you don't have to recreate them over and over again. I will tell you where I got this idea. This is the thing that I just added this morning. People are doing AI programs. I go to all of them. I love to learn more about this. I heard about doing a prompt library in the one I was doing yesterday. Smokeball did one for prompting for lawyers. So it's a great idea, right? You open up a Word document, and as you find different prompts that work really well for you, just cut and paste them in there and put them in there. So what I did is I took the one they did for lawyers and I uploaded it into ChatGPT and had it change it to a prompt library for distinguished neutrals for you all. and created it, and that is now in your materials. And what it did is it organized them by different phases of your mediation, by the task that you might want to do, and it gets you started with a prompt library. But it's, you have that ready to go and open up quickly on your screen. It gives you an easy way to start doing it. It also, as an example, if you want to practice when you're done with this program, open up the prompt library and start trying some of those prompts and see, just make up scenarios around some of the things and see what comes up for you. Play with it again. Lee J?
Just a quick question about compatibility with DocuSign. Have you worked with that before?
I don't know that any of them are compatible with DocuSign. Does anybody know? I don't use them. They do integrate with different tools. So like my ChatGPT is integrated with my Zoom and my Calendly and a few others, but I don't know that
I've
it does
not heard of
DocuSign.
that integration. We've played with the API. I'm not aware of that integration.
Yeah, I don't think that that's there yet. Sooner or later, it's such a good question though, because frankly, sooner or later, it's going to be in everything you use. It's going to be just a system. You're going to walk into your office and say, "Hi, Chat GPT," but it's going to have some different name, and this thing's going to like open up next to you. It's going to follow you around through your day, and it's going to tell you, "Okay, your next appointment is this. I've created an agenda for the meeting based upon your last notes. Here are the bullet points of what you wanted to talk about, that you said you wanted to talk about. Is there anything else you need to know before you go into that meeting? Don't forget that Bill preferred to be called Bill rather than Richard." Or, it's going to be this thing that follows you around during your day. Your children are going to grow up with it, or your grandchildren are going to, grow up in a world where they can't imagine that this doesn't exist and support their everyday. So pro tip on the prompt library, very helpful, great little easy way to start using it. All right. We're going to move into managing the concerns, but because this is really, I know, whoops, didn't mean to do that. I wanted to get to, oh, it's down already, so that's why I can't find it. I wanted to talk with you all a little bit, and Lee J, maybe you can help me because, I noticed on the slide and from Darren's, the NADN survey, that there was a larger group, 50-ish%, that hadn't used it yet, but were interested. And then there was a notable group that are like, nope, not doing it. Too dangerous. I'm concerned. And I'd just love to explore what those concerns are.
Do you want to open it for people to raise their hands? Is that the easiest?
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, let's try that. And you can drop it in the chat as well.
So just again, if you want to go down to the React button with the little heart at the bottom and click that, there we go. And then you can click the hand feature like Mr. Arrington just did.
There we go.
Well, I use it, but the concerns I have are confidentiality and hallucinations. And I've read, I think we've all seen the horror stories about the lawyers getting in trouble with judges for using ChatGPT uncritically. And I don't think we do that in our shop. I certainly don't. But and bias is another, programming bias is another concern. And I see on the agenda, Susan, that's all those things are going to be addressed. So those are my reservations, although I use AI, but mostly to summarize documents and organize documents, and what I use is really good for that.
Yeah, wonderful answer, because aren't those all three things that everybody in this room, you're distinguished neutrals, you're the best of the best in our country. Well, in our dual countries, we have our Canadian friends here too, right? You are the best of the best. Of course you're worried about these ethical challenges. Confidentiality is probably the number one thing I hear from people, right, Lee J? I mean, that's just like, and it should be. You are 100% correct to be concerned about it. There's a huge issue around confidentiality, and confidentiality is one of the main benefits of our process. what we do or the processes that we do, if we're mediators, arbitrators, whatever that might be. But people come to us and opt in for our opt-in, process because they want the confidentiality. So protecting that not only is ethical, but it's a part of what, the inherent part of what we do. As is, the getting accurate information, making sure that the information that we impart to clients is 100% accurate and appropriate. So hallucinations, I saw somebody asked what a hallucination is. A hallucination is where an AI tool makes something up, and it does it all the time. Did I mention it's really creative? You know who doesn't make stuff up? Google. Google's a retrieval system. AI is the wise old owl, and sometimes he just comes up with a guess. Right? Because he's just putting information together from all those different books. So hallucinations and misinformation, a huge problem, and bias. I love talking about bias because it doesn't come up as much. So bravo for mentioning it. But again, another big ethical issue. Another big ethical issue for us. Does anyone else have any other things that are holding them back?
Susan, before we go further on the bias thing, that's certainly something that could be built into any prompt in our prompt library where we have the copy and paste prompts. We can always add in something to every prompt that says, please be certain to check for biases and blah, blah, blah. I mean, we teach it and then it learns. So
right.
I think a lot of people are looking at this like it's a can of Campbell soup, and it's not. We can mold it and shape it and change it, as you keep saying. It's adaptable and it learns. And I think that's the thing we have to get beyond as we think about what its limitations are. And with confidentiality, I would love, I know you said earlier, you're going to get to the part that talks about the subscription programs and the benefits.
Yeah, we're jumping into that next.
Yeah, so just want to flag that it'll come up later, folks.
It's really important. And, I 100%. So let's go back to Zoom. Let's go back to thinking about when we learned Zoom. I know it seems like a million years ago now, but I was on this screen with so many of you and people were afraid. You were nervous. They were like, there are problems with using this thing. Now you click on a Zoom link and you probably don't think a thing about it. You're like, Zoom, I Zoom every day. I Zoom. We say Zoom instead, like Kleenex and Band-Aid.
I remember, Susan, when there was a lot of fuss about that court case in New York where Zoom allegedly exaggerated their encryption techniques, etc. And I pointed out, I think it was the difference between 128-bit encryption, 256. And essentially that would mean that the Chinese government would have to put all of its supercomputers pointing at a personal mediation in Tampa, Florida, whatever was happening that day. It would take them best part of 80 years to crack the code to enter that meeting. But there was a lot of panic over, is it safe? Can people get in? And there were stories of people just sending out the URL links without any passwords, etc.
Posting it on LinkedIn,
or
sending it in an email to a company wide or something like that.
Twitter or something. That was, and again, it all comes down to garbage in, garbage out. If you misuse the platform, then it's not going to be. I just we mentioned Colin earlier. I think Colin famously said the COVID, and if it's not him, I apologize in advance. But there was a consensus that at the time that you had been using Zoom for your family mediation work. You've been using Zoom for
about
2 years
3-4 years before that.
I think we spoke before that when you were back in that world. And my view was my view initially was that Zoom will get us over a bump. A couple of months of the pandemic play out, and the market will insist that everybody's back to in person because we're going to miss out on the body language. Now, it's regional, as the report suggested, but I think I've heard I think Colin described the pandemic as a catalyst towards the inevitable march towards virtual mediation. I think it took a gun to the head to drag what's naturally a conservative leaning technical group to move towards mediation. And it wasn't until the market said, hang on a second, we're saving all the time in traffic. Obviously there were health concerns at the time, all of those things that checks the boxes. But I think to say it was a catalyst is probably incorrect. I think it took a gun to the head to get the entire industry to widely embrace virtual mediation. I don't think we would have got there organically. I think it would still remain an outlier.
Yeah.
Susan, there's a question in the chat backing up
Sure.
to about bias. There's an old story that I imagine most of us have heard about ChatGPT-2 that was asked, what's the best qualification or predictor of a successful engineer? And the answer came back, a young white male. That one is part of the lore that has, just like the Zoom bombing, that has stuck, and that people, I think, don't realize maybe that chat has evolved from. But the question in the chat is, could y'all give some examples of bias responses that we might need to be on the lookout for? What have you seen or heard about coming up?
I actually have I finally found a case study that's going to show you all how bias shows up, and then we're going to talk about how to get around it and how to work with it. And that's actually the key component to what we're going to talk about now in the 3 cases. We're going to talk about hallucinations and misinformation. We're going to talk about confidentiality, and we're going to talk about bias. And we're going to talk about...
When we talk about those, sorry, there's one more question that just popped up from Sylvia about what kind of disclosures, if any, should mediators be thinking about for their clients? I know that's coming up. I just want to make sure we put
That's a little bit further down, but that's absolutely right. If you're using these tools in a way that impacts the client's experience, what are your obligations to let them know that you're using that? That's part of your competency. You don't let them know you're using Grammarly. You don't let them know that your Netflix makes suggestions to you on what the next show that you should watch is based upon your past prior history. That's AI as well. There's instances. Oh, Lee J's got a cat. I see the tail. I love cats because it's always just the tail you see going across the screen. But the key here is the challenges. There were challenges with Zoom. Darren just did a great job reminding you of them. Remember, if anyone remembers the story I told about how I found out third parties could be in the room without being disclosed? Yeah, because it happened in one of my divorce mediations where the girlfriend was on the other side of the screen, and we didn't find out until the wife and the girlfriend were in the driveway at pickup and drop off. And, World War III erupted because girlfriend had been listening to the divorce mediation, right? And wasn't supposed to be there. So confidentiality was a major issue just in that one little example. That was something you were all worried about on day one when we had this, but you've come up with ways to work around that. That is, you have strategies, protocols that work around that. Every single technology that has ever been added to our work practice or will be added to our work practice is going to come with challenges. The key is to identify the challenges and then come up with strategies and protocols to minimize or eliminate them. Because the technology will not go away. Darren's gun to the head, I agree with him. Zoom, I had been teaching people how to use Zoom for a couple of years because I thought I was great. I thought there were all these benefits to doing that way. And the more I got so many pats on the head with yeah, Susan, no one's ever going to do that until you had no choice.
One from me, probably.
Yes, as a matter of fact, Darren. But you knew who to call when you needed me.
Oh, goodness, yes.
Yeah, and so we had to learn. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but the gun that is to everyone's head here is that sooner or later the clients, the people who pay us money and hire us, are going to go to the guy or the gal down the street who is using this technology appropriately, and it saves time, money, and results in a better outcome, a better process for them. Some of your colleagues are going to use it, and the clients are going to be the differentiator.
Susan,
to paraphrase, I think something Susan said some time ago. Robots aren't going to replace mediators. That is not on the immediate event horizon. The mediators that arm themselves with this technology are going to have a distinct advantage in the marketplace, and those AI-enabled mediators are perhaps in time will replace those that reject the technology out of hand. Because this is version 5 of GPT. I've no idea what 7 or 8 looks like, but it's going to look a paradigm shift more advanced. So now's the time to get on board with embracing this technology as far as you're able and comfortable.
Yeah, it could even be those that are just using it to streamline their practice, who are using it to be more efficient, who are using it to do things that help them with back end information, being organized. And many of us are solopreneurs or small firm and do a lot of our work. We're going to have more time to be better neutrals if the AI is doing that stuff. It's not that you necessarily have to get on board, although I think it will come where it's used in the room.
I agree.
But definitely.
So slip for a moment from mediation to arbitration.
Yep.
The American Arbitration Association has a new CEO. I'm going to guess she's 18 months in now.
Bridget.
Bridget's amazing and
amazing.
Very, very technologically savvy, very front facing. She's been a big shift for that organization. And she tends to look, she's very invested, as a person in that chair should be, in what the clients want and need. And what they've done is they did a joint venture with McKinsey and developed an AI program called the AI Arbitrator. Now, it still needs human supervision, but they heard from enough, they heard from, otherwise you'd have, PayPal's thing that Colin created 20 years ago. And it cost me $600 on a refrigerator once. But anyway, the point is, they're so tapped into and so used to hearing now from general counsel of all the Fortune 500s that arbitration needs to get more affordable. And if you've seen California's mediation rates, I know we will be next. But that it needs to get more affordable. So they co-created with McKinsey this AI arbitrator program, along with ClearBrief that summarizes the briefs. They've done lots of these joint ventures out there where they're developing this intellectual property that is coming into the room, aided by humans at the moment. So that's why I like Colin's not yet statement.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we're going to be put out of a job. I clearly don't believe that we are. But I do think adaptation outside is going to lead us to better equipped to use it in the room during mediations like you're going to teach us today and have been teaching us as a tool, as a prompt. And what we're going to do in the exercises next, I think, is what I'm trying to do is anchor our interest in using it in the room, because in a moment we're going to experiment with how to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
First, we'll run through a few of the worries and then what you can do about them. But then we are going to hopefully have time to do some of the in the room. And I think it's a really critical point that Lee J is making for just everyone to sort of contemplate, is that, and what Darren said, it's not that the AI will replace us. And as Lee J said, we're not going to be out of a job, but the job is going to change. It is going to fundamentally change what we do. I know we don't think of it as a job, but we are service providers at our core. We provide services to clients, and we can never forget. That's why Bridget's brilliant. In many ways, Bridget is brilliant, but she is focused on the client experience. The clients are everything. Their experience is everything, and AI can make their experience better. And so they are going to choose the providers who make their experience better. And one of the betters is cheaper. Doesn't mean that, do you think AAA thinks their revenue will go down because they're making arbitration cheaper? No, there's enough conflict to go around. They just need to make a different experience, and they're differentiating themselves by setting the curve on the client experience.
Yeah.
You want to be those professionals.
It's an access to justice issue also.
Yeah,
if people can get in small consumer arbitrations and things that they normally wouldn't have access to before, that's all the better for a lot of reasons, I think. So
yeah. I'm just going to try. I took down my slides, so I just need to get back up to those. But let's dive into managing some of the concerns now that we've talked about them. I just want to, again, anchor. absolutely appropriate to have those concerns. You should all pat yourselves on the back for having those concerns, because the mistakes happen when people don't have the concerns. And that's what we'll talk about right here, right? So what did we talk about? Competence, hallucinations, bias, and confidentiality. Those are the 4 biggest concerns that are stopping practitioners. I do 150 plus of these programs. These are the 4 things. I don't know how to use it. It has all those hallucinations and misinformation. I'm worried about the bias that's inherent in it. And confidentiality is challenged. Absolutely should be concerned. Those are all in our code of ethics, both legal and mediation and arbitration. They're all over all of them, right? So remember this guy? Stephen Schwartz, the Avianca attorney, AKA the Chat GPT attorney. Darren referenced him earlier when he was talking about it. Ended up on the front page of the New York Times in March of 2023, above the fold, right? And who wants to be in this headline? The Chat GPT lawyer explains himself in a cringe-inducing court hearing, a lawyer who relied on AI. Does anyone in this room want to be the subject of a cringe-inducing court hearing? God, no. And so we look back on this. If you don't remember, I think probably most people do. Stephen Schwartz was an attorney who in the early days of, right, this was March of 2023. ChatGPT came out in November of 2022. So 4 months in. And he used ChatGPT to draft a brief in a federal case and then signed his name to it, had his partner sign his name to it, and off they went and dropped it into the judge's hands, only to find out that it had cited several cases that did not exist. The opposing counsel were like, we can't find these cases, Your Honor. Judge said, are these real cases? They went back to ChatGPT and said, hey, ChatGPT, are these real cases? ChatGPT said, yes. And they doubled down and said, nope, they're real cases. And then nobody could find them. Well, everyone in this room knows ethically where the failure was. Mm-hmm. Was it in using ChatGPT to draft a brief? Anybody a former judge in this room? Or former partner in a law firm or partner? Do you guys draft your own opinions? Did you draft all your own motions or complaints or things? Everyone here draft all their own stuff when they were? No. Well, okay, Steve, you did. I see you nodding. But most of the time, someone else doing the work, the obligation ethically, before we sign our name to it, before we put it in front of a judge to use, is that we review it. We make sure that it's appropriate, that it serves the job and serves our client, that it's correct. And usually we read the cases. We know Attorney Schwartz did not read the cases. How do we know that? Because they didn't exist, right? They didn't exist. Now, his problem, and he even admitted this, is a fundamental misunderstanding of what the technology was. He said, and I quote, I thought it was super Google brain, right? He just thought it was Google on steroids. But it is not, right? So why is this a problem? Because you would think that was 2023 and we all saw it, front page of the New York Times. Thank you, Stephen Schwartz, for being the warning to us all in the legal and legal adjacent fields of what not to do. And yet it happens every single day. And Lawrence Colin, I know you're out there. He and I just taped a podcast yesterday, and he mentioned to me this site. There's one guy, he's an attorney out there, who is so fascinated with this hallucination thing that he keeps track of them. His name's Damian Charlatan. I think he was the one that you were talking about. I Googled after you and I had the podcast, Lawrence.
Yeah,
to
he's
find
terrific. That's
Yeah.
that's the go-to source for the latest embarrassment.
Oh yeah,
and
and
dropped it in the chat, so the link is in there.
okay, because I was going to try and find it here just to show you the website, because I think there's some interesting information on there. I just have to see if I can find it in my open. Where'd you go? No. Here it is, the AI hallucination cases. I'm going to share it with y'all now because this is good stuff. Here it is. All right. So I love that he has the time. He's created an entire website to this. There's been 643 cases identified so far. It goes up all the time. And he has put it into a variety of different formats. So here we have all the cases, hot links to them. You can go read them by country. Australia, naughty Australia, they've got 43. Canada, you guys have 50 of these where these are cases where they've been called out for a hallucination or fake cases or some sort of it actually goes in further into the different problems that have been there, but they're all AI related. Let's get down to the United States of America. 433 cases. We are so far off the charts. Nobody else broke 100. We've got 433. Then it tells you who did it. I'd like you to notice that 6 of our judges have done it.
Wow.
There were 2 recent cases in the last month where 2 judges, federal judges, had to withdraw opinions because of misinformation in them.
Now, to be fair, look at the number of pro se litigants. That's
yes. Okay. But what does that tell you if pro se litigants are using this technology? Right? They're using it. Lee J said the important words, access to justice. They're pro se, they need information, but they don't understand how to use it either. And they don't have access to the legal back end, the legal tools that help to deal with this, right? But so a lot of it is there. Then it's telling you, so we've got fabricated cases, false quotes, misrepresented facts, outdated advice, and then the subcategories, right? Fascinating. If you want to go down a hole, go to this website. There's all kinds of information there. But the key is this is happening. This was just updated, I think yesterday. It's still happening constantly. It happens in very high profile cases where you would think people knew that the spotlight was on them.
Susan, somebody asked a question about, would you ask this group how many, if any, have received hallucinated cases in briefs as mediators or arbitrators?
Yeah, great question. Anybody want to share? I bet you have. Anybody? Has anybody received that they know of? Nope, Kevin hasn't.
Yes.
Teresa Frisbee has.
I have very
Hi,
recent
Andrew.
an entire brief that was done on AI by somebody at 3 a.m. It was about a page and a half. It had 1 sentence per line of argument with a cite, and none of the cites were valid. And the other side immediately wrote quite a brief about how wrong they were.
Right. Right. And that's so look at the second bullet point on the screen right now. Time pressure and billing incentives create dangerous shortcuts. The core issue, according to legal experts, is sloppy lawyering and professional practice.
Hey, Susan,
By far,
I was just going to say, I think what comes up more often is even when it does get the case site right, it doesn't stand for what the case said.
it miscites it, right?
It misquotes what the case means.
Misquotes it. Absolutely. Whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Yes, and I will say when you go and look at it, if you look at it, it's mostly when it boils down, it's associates that are making these mistakes when we look at it, and when they are asked why, their billable hours are higher than they can manage. They're not getting any sleep, and so they go to shortcuts, right? It's the firm system. It is the way that we have built the practice, and we are not building in the appropriate safeguards. I saw somebody ask the question, can't you just tell the AI, or can you just tell the AI to only cite real cases? No. We'll talk, if you see down on the bottom here, AI hallucinations occur due to fundamental architectural limitations of the technology. The technology does not know the difference. It does not make determination as to what is true and what is false. It just is an algorithm that pulls the next best word. And the next best word may be a word that comes together into something that is not true. These are not resources for pulling factual information. There are plenty of them out there. Google still works, but it does not necessarily, you cannot tell it and train it. That is not one of the things you can train it on. So let's talk about what you can do, right? We've identified that there's a problem. Professionals can't stop there because the technology is here. So what do we do about it? Most importantly, and this should give you hope and that feeling of control for the control freaks in the room, we have control. It puts out information, but that information goes no further than our screen unless we disseminate it. If we put it in a brief and send it to a judge, we've done it. Bad on us, right? You have to treat everything like a first draft, and you have to verify everything in it. Now, what you can do with your AI is say, if you cite something, give me the link to what you cite. And then you can click on that and go check it. And if it takes you to something, if it takes you to a case, great, but you got to do what Michael was just talking about. Read that case and make sure it stands for what you're saying it stands for. If it doesn't take you to the case, you better cut and paste that case name and drop it into Google or drop it into, LexisNexis, or my personal favorite legal research, which is 100% free, is called Describe AI, DESCRYBE.ai. Describe AI. It was created. It has now paid features, but its basic core legal research function is 100% free. I've had legal professors use it who have come up and told me comes up with the cases that they know it should be coming up with. It's a very good, and it was created by a non-legal couple in Boston. They're awesome. One of the founders is on my podcast, but they created it for access to justice. But it's a tool that's available to everyone. But your pro ses can use it, anyone can use it, but everything has to be fact checked, right? LexisNexis for a solo can be expensive. Use Describe, it's free. You also can put natural language questions in. We don't have to put the quotes in and come up with the right keywords and all those things. You can just ask it a question. Find me the best cases for alimony. Sorry, family law attorney, but alimony termination in Connecticut. And it will bring those up. Use it for support. Do not use it for conclusions. Do not use it, and I see this, for what should the parties do? That is their decision. That is not your decision. It is not ChatGPT's decision. Use it for idea generation, for structure. You're not looking for legal conclusions. What is a brief? Or some of these things that we're talking about, they're looking for legal conclusions. They're looking for legal arguments. That is not its role. Never copy and paste without having reviewed it. That is just right there. You fell down on your ethical duty. Whether everything in there is 100% right or wrong, I'll tell you right now, chances are something is wrong. Treat the first draft like a scavenger hunt. And what you're doing is finding the mistakes because they're there. Use your follow-ups wisely. This is what Lee J was talking. You can ask follow-up questions. You cite this case, give me the cite to that case, right? You can ask it for plain language explanations or alternate versions. You can ask it to find more information on something. So don't just presume. Here's the danger with these tools. They write very convincingly. They are good. It comes out and it sounds like, man, that's gotta be right. It sounds great. It's just making up one word after the next one. A lot of the time it's right, but you don't want to be the one where it's wrong. And I already said, don't use it like a decision maker. That is not its role. I will just tell you quick. I do use it and did use it in mediations with couples to option generate and to review those options and to talk about things. Fantastic tool. I'd take a screaming couple and turn them into like little kids looking at a TV like, oh, wow, what's happening here? And let's pay attention. And they'd stop screaming. And it was a really helpful tool. But if you use it Sooner or later, somebody's going to go, I'm tired. Can't we just ask ChatGPT what we should do? It is not its role. All right. So you need a strategy and a protocol. Every time you identify a challenge with the technology, and now we're going beyond AI, we're going to talk about when you're doing virtual reality. We're going to talk about Colin talks about it. I'm not sure, I think, but they're going to put those things in our brains that or the glasses, or, I mean, God knows, there's all these things. There's going to be challenges, I promise you, ethically with them. It's unavoidable. But there will be strategies and protocols to work around it. So here's something we're going to do. And just because of time, I'm not going to go through and do this. But one of the things that I love about these tools is you can use them to help you come up with the things that are going to help you deal with the challenges, right? So you can start building a safety checklist for using AI tools by, well, let's see if we have, let's do it. You can put a prompt in. I'm starting to use AI tools in my legal or mediation work. I want help creating a simple safety checklist so I don't accidentally use wrong information from the AI. Please walk me through what I should do to make sure the AI's answers are correct, avoid using the AI for things it's not good at, check if something might be made up or misleading. Can you come up with 4 to 6 easy steps I can follow every time I use AI? I want it to be simple, safe, and useful for my kind of work. Think carefully and give me a clear answer. You can use the AI to help you come up with the strategies and protocols. I'm concerned about confidentiality because of this. How might I work around that? You don't need to come to Susan. You don't need to go to a training. These tools are there to help you create the answers to the problems. And they're brilliant at it. They will do a fantastic job. You will iterate with it. So every time that you're worrying about it, worrying about something with using them, open up one of your tools, click the little button that turns the microphone on, and just talk into it and tell it what you're worried about. What should I do? How can I avoid this? How can I maintain my ethical standards in light of this challenge? And I think you're going to be surprised. I was working with a brand new client the other day who wants to start creating workflows to take some of the administrative work off of her plate. She's a solopreneur, and so that she can focus more on her very busy practice. But she just is like, I don't know where to use it. I don't know how to use it. I don't know, once I figure something out, how do I implement it? We opened up, she uses the Copilot. We opened up Copilot because she's Microsoft 365, and we just started talking to it about what her low-hanging fruit were. What are the time suckers in the day? Scheduling, email answering, all these things. And it gave her, we'll come up with templates. You can do automatic replies to certain types of emails. You can do scheduling on your, I mean, it came up with all these things. And she said, well, but how do I do it? It told her step by step how to implement each one of the AIs into streamlining her workflows. So now every day she's doing a different program. Oh, Darren, you're on.
Okay,
hold on, let me mute him.
I'm starting
just so he doesn't want his program, or he doesn't want his phone call heard. But right, so the technology itself, if you take only one tip for this entire program, you've just gotten one of the most valuable. When you have a question about the technology, you can explore that question with the wise old owl. And you can not only explore it, you can come up with solutions. And that is really valuable because it will help you learn how to use it, interact with it. When you tell it you're worried about ethical problems, what is it learning about you? It's learning that you're ethical and you're worried about maintaining your ethical standards. Right? So it all builds into the whole. This is not Google. This is wise old owl who's getting to know you. All right. So summary of what you can use and what you shouldn't use AI for. You can use it for drafting, for summarizing. We'll talk about what you need to do about confidentiality if you want it to summarize things, but if it's a transcript. Ideation, give me 10 questions to break an impasse in negotiation. It's a great one. It always comes up with one more than we've ever thought of. Don't use it for legal research. Use the appropriate tools. If you're doing legal research, you can see I put describe on here. You know, if you want case law, if that's what you're looking for, or precedent or anything, use an appropriate tool for that. It's not good at math. It's not. It's not good at math. Don't use it to use your calculator. Don't use it for math.
I'll just back that up. I was doing some accounting recently and
Yes.
thought I'd throw something, nothing confidential, just some general stuff. And I'm in Canada, so I know of what I speak on taxes. And it did a dreadful job to the point of I was shocked because it's so good at so many other things. But oh goodness, talk about not fit for purpose. It was rubbish.
Yes, it is. I'm horrible at math, so I really wanted to think that it was going to help me with that. It does not help me with that. And then when it comes to anything where confidentiality is of importance, which almost anything we do, but if you're doing your social media, it's not as important there. You're not going to put client information into your next social media post probably, but you aren't going to put unredacted information. You can still use it for some of these things, but we're going to talk about what you need to do. But the final golden rule is if you wouldn't trust what a young intern put out or a first-year associate, consider this technology the same. You're going to double check it. You should always be double checking it. We have a duty to supervise those who are working for us. This is a tool that's working for us. We have to be competent in its use. That means you have to supervise. All right. All right. Bias. This is one of my favorite. I found this. The problem is the bias, right? We know there's bias. Lee J gave us a great example of bias being inherent in these tools. There is bias buried in these tools. Why do we know that? Because every human being on the planet for all of time has had bias embedded in them. Right? We all have our inherent bias. It is impossible to not have that. We know that it exists. We deal with that every day in our mediation rooms, in ourselves, and in our arbitrations. The problem is in these tools, it's sneaky because it's buried. But if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. Those data sets that it's pulling information, whatever algorithm you're using, wherever it's pulling that information from, well, who created that information? Human beings. And what went into what they created? Their own inherent bias, right? It just gets perpetuated over and over. So everything that's gone into the back end of these things has bias buried in it, but we don't even know what that is, right? And remember whose fingers are on the prompt keys, right? Making those prompts. Who's creating those? Humans. Who's got inherent bias? Humans. Where is that information going if it's going into the training data? So if you're using a free model like actually millions and millions, or they may have gotten to 1 billion users of AI tools around the world, all of that bias that's going into the prompts is going into these, feeding into these tools now. So there's buried bias in them. That's the scary part. How do we avoid it? Well, we've come up with, strategies for dealing with it in the room, in ourselves, in the people we deal with. We can do the same. But I love to give this example. I found this survey or study that they did. And this, to me, it shows the danger of bias in these tools in a way that makes it really clear. So they were doing, it wasn't a legal thing, it was an HR survey. And they were trying to show whether or not these tools are helpful in prepping a candidate for an interview, for a job interview. And so they had a female candidate run through using it as a coach for the interview. And it put in her qualifications, the job description, it walked her through, what to be prepared for. And one of the last questions she asked it was, when they ask for my salary requirements, what should I tell it? And it suggested a salary ask of $240,000. And she said, great, 240 sounds good, right? And off she went. So it was a singular little study. Well, then they said, let's test that. And they did it for a male candidate. with identical qualifications, except for a different chromosomal makeup, right? The gender was the only difference. They ran through the same questions, gave the same answers, just he, she, different. Anyone want to guess when we get to the question of what the AI suggested his salary ask should be? Come on, Lee J. Drop it
300?
on us. How much?
300? 300?
Higher.
Oh, no.
Yes. Steve, 4? Are you
In the
saying 4,
chat,
Steve?
we have 4, 450, and 500 in the chat.
Okay, $400,000. $400,000 because of a different gender. Now, think about it a little further. She doesn't know she got a bias. Anyone think that's bias? Inherent bias embedded in the AI? Right? I don't know what else to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
About 140%.
She's asking the wrong question.
Very good. Well, she's not necessarily asking the wrong question, but she didn't do any iteration beyond it. And we'll talk about how you might do it. Because she's in there, she's a she. It knows she's a she because she has an account with it. She's done other things with it. It gets to know you. It knows she's a she. So that inherent bias is likely to come out. She's not using a clean system. You rarely are opening up an AI for the very first time once you start using them. So it knows nothing about you.
And
So
even
it's not
like it's not, my observation is flawed because it's the same question, just different gender. But I guess the training for like users at large, you have to ask for the data that might support your ultimate conclusion about what you should ask.
So ask it in a different way. Your prompt, you're right. The prompt is everything, right? The questions that you ask it is everything. And there's a lot of different ways. Yeah, Robert's got it. Please correct for gender bias. Or please, so if follow-up iteration is a lot of the way to do this. But let's back up just to thinking about, here's a person who sat down, used the tool, came up with an answer of $240,000, and off she went. She didn't know she got a biased answer.
I mean, if I'm asking, to the sort of the replacement for Google, if I'm asking it what are great movies to go see this weekend, I'm not assuming, it would know so much about me. Mine's called Tom, by the way. I tattoo it on my phone.
I told you that you named it.
Which I've avoided doing for the longest time. I've got to call it something. But yeah, that's a really worrying, if that's baked into the pie and their knowledge base and in the massive terabytes, teraflops of data, that the expectations should be wildly different based on gender. That's obviously worrying.
Well, and there's other areas of bias, right? Like where we might find ethnicity. We might find, there's what is buried in there and how do we ferret it out? Reality is we're dealing with bias in the room all the time anyway. Right? It's there, it's in us, we're working to control ours, but in a field where neutrality is a key component of what we bring to the room, right? The bias is a huge issue. So what can we do about it? This is, why this happens. Basically, here's the study. If anybody geeks out on studies and wants to know more about it, this is a hot link. So if you get the slides, you'll be able to just go directly to the study. But the problem here is when it's giving you output, you don't necessarily know that they're biased. She had no idea. And frankly, the guy wouldn't have known. The male candidate wouldn't have known his 400,000 was more than it just told the woman next door, right? It looks on its face, so you don't have a red flashing light telling you this is a biased output. So what do we do? So Hillary, you're 100% right. You check your prompt first, right? The prompt, so the going into getting the output is the first line of defense. Because bias often enters before the AI responds. What did I say earlier? We put the bias into the prompts. We feed it in. So part of it is what Hillary said, asking the wrong question or asking the question in a way that leads to a biased answer.
Susan, let's take one more step with it too. To the degree that ChatGPT or whoever is going out into the world to search for what women in that role make and what men in that role make,
Yeah.
it might actually be pulling real data too, not just bias. Now, it's obviously biasing it because she's a woman, but the actual, it's not fabricating it. It's not an illusion.
Mhm.
Right? My point is, it's even worse if it's actually pulling real data that has that kind of disparity, which we
Right.
all know that there's a
Well,
good
and it
chance.
does, right? The inherent bias. We already know that there's I don't remember the exact amount, but I think women make 78 cents on the dollar that men make or something along those lines. So that's just so one of the things with the prompt might be that if she asked, can you give me a gender neutral, or maybe gender and racial neutral, or an inclusive answer to what my salary prompt should be, or what my salary ask should be, right? That's how you might change. Oh, I like that. I am a man. No, because they just did this. Did anyone hear about this with LinkedIn? So LinkedIn works on an algorithm, right? You put out posts and then the algorithm decides who it's going to show them to based upon a bunch of criteria. Well, they took a bunch of women on LinkedIn and had them go into the back end of their LinkedIn and change their gender to male. And do you know what happened? Immediately,
Greater exposure.
their reach almost doubled and their engagement went way up.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference was that they changed their gender to male. So LinkedIn is biased. Their algorithm is biased. It's everywhere, right? I thought that was fascinating. That's not the problem that we have here in the room, but part of it is when we are creating the prompts in any instance, we do have to start thinking about these things. So you need to be concerned about that as you go into the workplace. And that workplace one, it's rather a well-known thing that women earn less money than men, that sometimes different minorities earn less than other races. So those are the things that you may want to ask for. I think you said it earlier, Lee J. Ask for inclusive answers. Ask for a lack of bias. You also want to use neutral framing. One of the ways it comes up in family law all the time, so I'll just share it, is say I'm doing a parenting plan, or I'm working with it to help me with the parenting plan. I don't say mother or father. I don't say wife or husband. I don't say he or she. I say party A and party B. And that's best practice in any of the litigation or the cases that you may be working in. And you want to go ahead. I'm sorry, Lee J, did you have something?
Thank you for seeing that. I just want to double click on something that you've said all along about us having a prompt library. In the middle of a Wednesday afternoon, when we're thinking of something really quickly and we want to ask for a result quickly, we may not stop to think about everything that we're thinking of in this moment. So a prompt library that has a cut and paste that we can say, and make sure that you screen for biases, and make sure that you, like, the things that we take for granted are why we need a prompt library that has all of these correctors of our bad habits that we can drop into these prompts until it learns us and we teach it often enough and that sort of thing.
It's 100% true. It's exactly like, look at the fourth box in the bottom right-hand corner. Yep. Everything that Lee J is saying there is there, right? Add explicit instructions to avoid bias. If you have a standard prompt, you can just say avoid bias. Create an equitable, inclusive summary or answer or output that avoids assumptions and reflects all parties' perspectives fairly. And you can use that in anything. Tell it to be inclusive in its answers. It's one of the first ways. So realize what we're doing here. We're attacking the problem from the start, from the prompt. But it may be that we still want to check it from the other side. Well, first,
that fourth box is worth the price of admission, Susan, right there.
Yeah. The other, I mean, it really, those, and it can be all different language. And I'll go back to that last slide, but I want to jump on this one because we were coming at it from the prompt, from the side where we have control. Then we get an output, machine came in, And now we've got control again. We're in iteration phase. And what can we do? We can ask the AI to reflect on what it gave us. So what assumptions did you make in this response about gender roles or priorities? It's a great follow-up iteration to find out. She or he might have found out some interesting information if they had asked that after they got the 240 or the 400. I don't think he would have cared as much as she did, but right? Or iterate to request a bias-aware revision. Revise or refine this response to remove any unintended bias and reflect inclusive, neutral language. So it's not a one and done because you have the power of iteration. But part of it, let me back up to that prior slide. Part of it is our own making. Part of it is us not recognizing or just being too quick in how we input things. And that's why I like those follow-up prompts, the follow-up iteration. But here's a potential prompt. Can anyone tell me what might be sort of the issues, the bias issues in this prompt? Take a stab at it. Summarize why Party B's delay created the current dispute and outline the problems it caused for Party A. April, you just popped up on my screen. You have an answer?
Yeah, Party B is obviously the problem.
Yeah. Good job, April. It's nice to see you. Hi.
Good to see you.
Right? It presumes that the problem is Party B. It's their delay. Their delay caused problems for Party A. So how could we be reframing that? Create a neutral summary of the dispute, outlining each party's description of the delays and their impact. Right, so now we're asking it for a neutral analysis based solely on the information provided and without assigning responsibility. Right, so it's a way to reframe that. Here's another one. Anyone have an idea? Break down the strengths of Party A's position. Whoops. So I can prepare for mediation. Anybody know what's wrong with that one?
You mean besides Alan's microphone? Alvin's?
Yeah, Alvin, if you could mute, please. I'm trying to mute you, but for some reason it's not showing up on my...
It doesn't include the weaknesses.
There we go. Nope, I tried to mute. Hold on. I don't think he's there.
Remove Alan, unfortunately, if it's... Alan, if you can hear me, if you could just mute your
I've hit mute a couple of times and it won't mute. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure why.
Zoom is great until it's not. All right. So break down the strengths of Parties A position so I can prepare for mediation. Yes, it doesn't in any way recognize that there's another party to this action, right? It's only asking for one side's version and it's not asking for that neutral, balanced evaluation. You can provide a neutral analysis of the key issues raised by all parties based solely on the information provided without evaluating the merits or offering legal conclusions. Stand down, AI. I just want you to do the basic work here. And I want it to be neutral. Using the word neutral is really helpful when you ask for it. Remember in your RCTO, right? You can say, I want a neutral analysis. How about this one? Summarize how the employee misinterpreted the company's policy and why that led to the conflict. Nan, you got this one. I see you're there. You're like, come on, these are too easy, Susan. But these are the things that we do if we're being a little hurried, you have to train yourself. You have to train yourself to ask for the neutral analysis. You will solve a lot of your bias problems. Yes,
Darren. At that point, if in the process, I'm sitting there now and I say, Party B sucks, tell me why there are issues with their case,
exactly.
20 minutes later, an hour later, a day later, it could remember the context of that framing and assume you want similarly, answers that hold an antipathy towards Party A. I mean, that's one of the things the AI is getting better and better, is remembering the context of the questions. So that could be problematic beyond the initial inquiry.
Oh, absolutely. Right. And that's why the follow-up, I mean, you may not use that in your day-to-day output, the iteration and the reframing or the refining, but we are talking about using this in your work. I'm trying to get you to the point where you all feel comfortable in some way using this in your work. So you have to understand if bias is something you're worried about, it is 100% in, just as it is when you're in the room, right? Everybody has to deal with the inherent bias. You are dealing with the same thing here. We actually have a way to try and ferret some of it out. It's really hard to do with humans, and it's really hard to do with ourselves. It's easier actually with the AI because we can ask about it and we can reiterate and we can tell it that we want it to be neutral. Yes, that's a good point, Steve. It's going to help us all find our own inherent bias, right? I mean, and the better you get at it and the more you work with it, one, it's going to start to know that neutral and unbiased information is what you're looking for. All right, let's move on. Well, we already did this, right? So understand with bias, you have 2 bites of the apple. The prompt you asked and your iteration follow-up. Both sides, you can work on bias. All right, the last one is our confidentiality. And it won't take a long time, but this one scared me. I was just meeting I had 2 new clients, and one was a financial professional and set of a financial firm, and another one was an attorney. And I always ask up front what they are using. One was using ChatGPT and one was using Gemini and Claude. So they had these programs. These are, I call them the excuse me, big 3. They tend to be the most used, but there are so many others. But these were the ones they were using in their practice. That's why we were looking at it. And I said, so how are you dealing with, both obviously had very serious issues around confidentiality. I said, both said, oh, don't worry about it. We pay the $20 a month. And so we're paying for, security. So they were uploading, financial firm was uploading tax returns, bank statements, all those fun things right into ChatGPT. And the attorneys and people in that firm were uploading client confidential information, pre-mediation briefs, things like that, into Gemini and Claude with the $20 version. Let me be very, very clear. $20 does not get you security. $20 does not get you security. You cannot use the $20 versions. All you're getting for that is more usage, more hours, more time of using it. It won't shut. Or does anyone remember the free version of Zoom that would shut off at 40 minutes? Anyone do that in their first mediation? I did. Just goes dark. That was long before COVID when I was first learning how to use it. But right, same thing here. You get a certain amount of time and you get a certain level of use, but it does not get you confidential grade levels of usage. I had to have them, I'm like, clear those out. You've got to go into the back end, but it's done. That's done, right? It's gone out there. Now, people always ask me, if you upload a client's income tax return, does that mean someone can go, please tell me what Betty Brown had as gross income for 2020 under 2027 or 2017 income tax return? Not likely. It's not a retrieval system like Google is. Right? I've uploaded things I've written and then said, please find Susan Guthrie's article on Aspen, the Aspen protocol. It can't pull that up. It pulled up 15 other Aspen protocols. Apparently that's a popular name, but it did not bring up mine. But it is not buying you security. Here's where you can start to get more secure with these. They all have, and on this one I included Copilot, but ChatGPT, Gemini, and Copilot all have enterprise grade versions. Enterprise grade is the standard for business use for those of us who have confidentiality requirements. And frankly, of the 3, Microsoft's Copilot is the highest level. It's the one most attorneys like to use. It's HIPAA ready. Usually if it's HIPAA ready, it's okay for us. It's SOC2 compliant. It's end-to-end encrypted, all those good things. So Copilot is the highest level. But with ChatGPT and Gemini, you are also doing well. You are enterprise grade. It does not use your data to train. It's a closed system. It's much safer. Would I still put client confidential information into it? No, I would not. I would not. I would feel more comfortable using it, and I would use it in certain ways. And I mentioned I pay for Chat GPT. So I deal with a lot of, I'm not doing mediation anymore, but I'm working with a lot of clients as a consultant about their practice. I still get information that's required to be kept confidential. I don't just willy-nilly upload that into my GPT, right? There are also, like, I call them bubble wrap programs. There are programs out there that let you put bubble wrap around those paid versions of ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude. The one that is most interesting to me is Legal Area, that was made for legal professionals, including mediators, that basically puts a bubble of safety around them so that you can use those versions in their paid $20 format, but you're using them inside their private little cloud. The reason I like that idea is because I use all three of these, right? So I use ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini. I want the safety of all of that. Now, the one thing, caveat with this, I have not yet met with them. I know some practitioners that use this and like it very much, but I personally have not done the due diligence on it. They do not put their confidentiality and their security information on their website. So you have to they do it so that you have to make an appointment with them for a consult with their sales team. I have that coming up in a couple of weeks. It took me a while to get one with them. I will report to Darren what I learn. But the two practitioners I know who use it are very pleased with it. I can report that, but please know I have not done my due diligence on it. And the reason I tell you that is, don't even take my word for it. Do your own due diligence. Read through those disclosures. You know, when you sign up for something and you check the box, I agree to your terms and conditions, right? We're lawyers, for God's sakes. Do we not think about the fact that we have just agreed to something that we haven't even read? I know it's boring, but hey, face it, we go through these things. You know what you can do? Cut and paste it and put it into ChatGPT and ask it to give you a summary and to highlight where there might be confidential concerns. Yay, Lee J, right? Did I just save you some time?
Yes, right.
Yeah, well, you know what? We could do a transcript from this entire thing, but right? You want to do your due diligence, and they change these things all the time. So when they send you the email saying we've updated our terms and conditions, please cut and paste that and put that back into the same thread that you went through and ask if there's anything you should be concerned about now, because they continue to update these. Yes, Lee J.
A good question in the chat. Do we have any ethics opinions that enterprise satisfies a lawyer's duty to treat a client communication confidentially?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
But I have not researched it in depth.
Likely not tested.
There's that due diligence, and if you find out an answer to that, please share it with Darren so he can share it with all of us. Yeah. That's the kind of information, that's the kind of curious thinking, that's the due diligence that I'm talking about. The reality is we are 3 years into the usage. We've had this technology for 3 years available to us, but lawyers are the most risk-averse people on the planet. And so we are the slowest to adopt this, and we are not using it. So we have not gotten a lot of follow-up in case law, in opinions, and you have to remember these tools dropped on the world that was completely unprepared for it. Had no idea what this was. When you all heard about ChatGPT, did you? I mean, I thought it was Chat BGT, or, you know, I kept saying the wrong letters for a long time. I thought that was the stupidest name in the world because I didn't know what a GPT was. So why are we calling it where'd they get that? I mean, the world was unprepared for these things. And so the regulation and the opinions and all those things around it are just they're not there. So the due diligence falls to us. Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. So I love that question, and I would love to know the answer. So here's what you do as your strategy and protocol to protect yourself and your clients. You never put personal identifying information, PII, into one of the commercially available tools. You just don't do it. You either neutralize it by saying party A and party B, and you don't put things like you have to redact. You have to go through and either do it with your old, Sharpie, like we used to do in the good old days. I know it's a pain, but if you want the benefit of the technology right now, you have to go through the pain to get the good. Sooner or later, we'll come up with better ways to do this, and I have a couple of things. But here's a question I get fairly often. Can I just upload it into ChatGPT and tell it to anonymize it? Does anybody see the problem there? Right? But I get that question quite a bit all the time. No, you cannot do that. It's a human who has to anonymize it.
A couple things out of the chat. One, Oregon has one opinion,
Great.
2025-205, that discusses competence and when a client consent might be needed. Question about how do we get CME credit for this program?
I'll take that. We did not go through that laborious process, so this is not CME. I did warn everybody about there's 50 states and 10 provinces, and Kathy's already got an awful lot of work to do, so it is not CME.
And then one last question, any reason for not including Claude on your confidentiality slide referencing enterprise level platforms?
No, I just didn't. It wasn't. When I created the slide, brain aneurysm, little issue there. Didn't get it on there. I have enterprise grade Claude. It exists. It's there. Still, my understanding, Copilot is the gold standard because it has the highest level with the HIPAA, but all the others are right close there behind it. But so here's one thing that I have started to do when I'm doing intake forms. I'm just going to share a little tip on getting anonymized. I have it do a create an intake form for me that asks for information from the potential clients or the clients in anonymized form. So it creates an intake form where they're putting their information in, but in an anonymized fashion, so that it doesn't ever ask them for their first name. It just says, this is the intake form for party A, and then it puts their phone number or their case number, and then it can ask them the questions, but ask them for the information in a neutral fashion or an anonymized fashion. And I know it sounds a little wonky, but try that with take your regular intake form and have it change it to ask for the information to come in an anonymized fashion. And I think you'll be surprised that you can actually pull the information from the clients in a form that's okay to upload. And then all you have to do, or your assistant or somebody, is add in who party A is. That goes on the file cover or in your own data as to what the address, the phone number, the email, and those things are. So you keep that client information on a cover sheet separate, but you can get all of that background information in an anonymized form in the intake, so you don't have to go through. And you can ask it, remember, go back and say, I really want to get my information in an anonymized form, or I want to be able to anonymize this information. Give me some ideas on how I can do that to make it simpler and easier. It gets better at these things all the time, right? All right, turn off the memory. So especially ChatGPT, but I think Claude has it now, and I'm pretty sure Gemini has this too. In the back end, in your settings, if you pay for it, it asks you if you want it to remember you and learn about you. And if you are working on client information, so now you're not inputting your own stuff, you're now inputting questions about client cases and all that, just turn it down. Just turn it off, when you're doing those. Go into your settings, turn off memory, right? Disable it, or use incognito mode for sensitive content, right? Don't ever put real-time case details in unless you are on, and when this says secure enterprise platform, that would be one of the couple $100 a month, right? I'm not talking about these enterprise level. If you're using the commercially available ones, just know that there's an inherent, they can get hacked, all sorts of things. I think you need to say that you need to be careful with these. And in fact, anytime you use the technology, my mom's credit card just got used again and they hacked it from her Chase account. So, you know, I mean, even the biggest financial institutions in this country are getting hacked. It's sooner or later, all of these things. It's part of doing business. Sorry, I'm disappearing because I'm having some little computer issues here, but I'm back. Hi, back. But something, you know, to keep in mind. And then use the AI to design the processes and explore ideas, not to retain confidential information. I have some people upload the documents in there and they use it like it's their cloud. They use ChatGPT like it's the cloud. It is not your cloud storage. Do not upload all your client information in there and open up different, because you can, especially in ChatGPT, you can open up different files now, and I can't remember what they call them, but it's not files, it's different projects, and you could open up a different project for each client, which would be great. And you can do that maybe in one of the enterprise grade legal background, you know, Clio, or using something like that. You cannot do that with ChatGPT or something like that. All right. Who's in the mood for a couple of in the room demos, things you might do? Now we're jumping way ahead. We're going off to things that I do not suggest anyone do until they're feeling a little bit more secure in using these. That word competent is also a part of our ethical obligations, both as an attorney, both as a mediator, as an arbitrator. Competency is a core ethical obligation, and that means competent in the technologies that you use. And whether you are in a state where they specifically say you need to have technology competence, or if you're in a state that just says you need to be competent, understand that if you're using a technology improperly, you are likely going to be found to be incompetent because you were using a technology in your practice that was being used in a way that showed you did not have competency over that technology. You shouldn't be using it. So I say all of that as the caveats, but there are ways to use your technology, these technologies in the room. So the first one I'm going to share is one of the things that we do as a mediator often is to, I'm just trying to find my chat. Here we go. Let's go back to ChatGPT. My buddy. I'm going to go to a new chat and start over. But one of the things that we do with our clients, especially when we want to get them off those pesky positions that they're so interested in, is help them generate options, generate some other ways that they might, things they may not have thought of. And we're in there and we're the little energizer bunny of option generation, and we try to pull them out of them and we get working on it. But frankly, we're human and we're not always as creative. We go with what we've heard before, what we've seen work in other rooms. Definitely a bonus and a benefit to our clients, but maybe there's things out there that we haven't thought of or seen done. So let's try let me just get to option generation. Okay, so I'm doing the cut and paste again, guys, just so that we can save time here, but I'm going to cut and paste. I'm going to share. Let's go here. All right, we're going to do some option generation. This could be done in the room. Let me tell you, if you do it in the room, you still have options there. Do you want to have the screen available for everyone to see, or are you just doing it over here on the side? If you're doing a remote, you could be doing this on a split screen or another device. They don't even know you're doing it. Or do you open it up on the screen, share screen, or show it up on your, monitor on the wall and do this with everyone? There's time. That is where the human in the room makes the decisions there. Or you do this as prep as you go in, or you do this as you're walking from conference room A down the hallway to conference room B. You may duck into your office for a second and do a little rundown on this. So you have some things. It's a tool to use to support you. But if you see on here, Party A is the supplier, claims late payments disrupted operations. Party B, the buyer, claims delivery delays, increased costs. Both want to maintain a future business relationship if the risks can be reduced. Here's my little owl prompt for the live demo. Act as a neutral civil mediator. I've given it its role. Based solely on the following case information, generate 3 interest-based settlement options. Now I've given it a number. You could just take 3 out of it and it would give me as many as you can come up with. God knows that could go on forever. Settlement options that address financial adjustments, operational improvements, and future relationship protection. So we're identifying their concerns, their goals, present all options in clear, neutral language without assumptions or conclusions. And then I've given it the case information in a neutral fashion. Party A reports that Party B's late payments disrupted operations. Party B states that the delivery delays from Party A increase their costs. Both parties want to avoid litigation and preserve a future working relationship. All right, so let's see what comes up in option generation. Here's a polished OWL style prompt. No, that's not what I don't want a prompt. I was working with it to come up with the program for today, and so it's doing more of what I was doing before. It knows me a little too well. Please answer the question. All right, let's see what it does. Here are 3 interest-based settlement options generated exactly according to your prompt parameters. All language is neutral and grounded solely. Option 1, financial adjustments. Party B provides an agreed partial payment or revised payment schedule to address the late payment concerns. Party A offers a defined credit discount or cost sharing adjustment. Both parties adopt a clear timeline. Option 2 is about operational improvements. Option 3, future relationship protections. Then it's doing, oh, it's going to give us a format these into a slide ready version for this program. No, I would like you, is there a way or ways to combine the 3 to best effectuate the outcomes desired by the parties? Continue to be neutral. I'm just doing it quickly because I want to be able to get through a couple of these so that you have a chance to see them. All right, here's an integrated resolution framework. Now, again, you could have these done already and sort of talk to people about that. Well, how, you know, explore them with them and then start talking about, well, this appealed to them a little bit more. We might want to add a little bit of this in. I'm just jumping straight to sort of evaluating on how these might work together, but there's a variety of different ways you can do it. Integrated resolution framework, a neutral combined approach, coordinated financial and operational adjustment plan. Now we're starting to look at ways that option 1 and option 2 work together, reciprocal good faith adjustments. This is giving you things that you can talk about with the parties. Now you're already doing that. You already have your own input. You're going to filter these through your professional lens, what you bring to the table, what you know about the parties. Again, just an additional tool. You could, I always give the example in a family matter, we always are having an issue around who's going to keep or what's going to happen with the marital residence. Always an issue. Anybody out there who ever practiced family law, there's never been a case in the planet that didn't have an issue over what's going to happen with the family residence. And it's usually one of them wants to keep it and one of them wants to sell it. I ran that in there, a neutral sort of analysis with the additional issues that have come up around high mortgage rates, and it maybe has a 3% mortgage and they can't refi and all these things. It came up with 22 options. In the mediation I had been doing with the parties, we had come up with 9 options. It came up with 22. Now, the 9 we had were part of the 22. But as we sat there going through the additional options, it turned out that one of the options we had started talking about and 2 of the additional options that it had come up with eventually worked out to be the completely brand new number 23 that ended up working for them. And we probably would never have found it because it was something I'd never seen done. Excuse me, and I've been doing this for 35 years. Sorry, my throat's got a little tickle in it. So one example is starting to just explore additional options or reviewing those options with your clients. Another thing that people seem to really like, how many people do risk analysis in their cases? You can just hold your hand up. Dan, I see you. Good, right? So a few, but I love the idea of risk analysis, but remember what I said about math? I don't like math. It's not good for me. And so often, and it's just, it can be a little, I know there are people in this room who do entire programs on how to do really good risk analysis, right? I've taken some of those. It's still good. It's still a little nerve-wracking. And I will be honest with you, when I talk to practitioners in consults or they report being a little nervous around risk analysis. Well, you know who can help us with our risk analysis? It's our buddy ChatGPT and friends, right? They can help us with this. So let me open up. Lee J and I are going to do a little role play for you all. And I'm going to open up, I think we'll use, how about Gemini? Sound good, Lee J?
Sounds good to me.
I like Gemini. Let me find it though.
There's a Gemini. It's a good luck.
Exactly. I'm a Gemini. So maybe that's why I like it. Let me start with that. Okay, I've opened it up and I've got a nice clean got a nice clean palette. And oh, and my battery's running low. Hold on one second. Might want to plug it. Is plugged in. If it doesn't die. Hold on one sec. Let me just make sure. It says it's plugged in. All right, good. Sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on. Battery status 9%. Plugged in. That's what I wanted to say. All right. Risk analysis. All right. Let me just get the prompt. I'm going to put the prompt in here. And then I'll share it just so everybody can see. All right. All right, Lee J. You're going to be, I gave you all the in the room exercises. And on that, there was a, here we go. There was a fact pattern. Lee J has done his due diligence. He has studied. He knows it inside and out. I didn't make it very complicated, but I did want it to be, simple enough that we could do a quick demo for this. And so what I've put in here is a prompt that says, act as a neutral civil mediator. Using only the neutral case facts we provide, help me conduct a structured step-by-step risk analysis for party A. Lee J is party A. Ask one question at a time. After I add in party A's response, please summarize the answer neutrally, identify which risk category it relates to, financial, operational, procedural, evidentiary, or relationship, and then ask the next question. Do not assign fault or predict outcomes, and continue until all major risk categories have been explored. So I have now brought it into the room as, sorry, our risk analysis tool. I'm going to hit go. And I'm the mediator. My hands are the one. I always say this. You're not having the clients fill these things in. You are the one. You are the maestro. You are the leader in the room. You are in charge of the process. All right, so I am ready to serve as your neutral civil mediator. I will strictly adhere to the structure you outlined. All right, to begin with the session, please provide the text of the neutral case facts we will be using. I have those on my
Susan, if you need to get a glass of water, please do so.
Sorry, I had one, but I drank it all.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to take the time just because I want to make sure that we have, here we go. Let me put that in. Let's copy it. So I'm going to put in, here it is, case information. Sorry. I'm using too many screens. And I'm not a rookie at this, so I can't imagine. Copy. All right. Sorry about the delay. We're going to get this. Is it still showing? Can you all still see the screen with that prompt in there?
Yes.
Where it's asking you to put there we go.
Is it still there? Because it's disappeared. Sorry, but it has disappeared from my screen. So let me take it down. I don't know why.
Just before you took it down, it actually showed you scrolling in it.
It did? Okay, let me try it again. So this is Chat GPT. I apologize, everyone. Rookie mistake.
Stick with GPT if Claude's playing up, perhaps.
Yeah, except I put the whole thing into Google Gemini. Here it is. All right. So putting the facts in. All right, so it's going to ask the question. It should be asking Lee J. It's framing the so it tells you, I like Gemini because it sort of tells you what it should. Thank you. I have received the case facts. I note the respective positions. Let us begin the risk analysis for party A. So Lee J, I'm sitting with you. If this dispute is not resolved here and proceeds to litigation, what are the specific direct costs you anticipate incurring to pursue the claim? Your legal fees, administrative time, and court costs compared to the amount currently owed.
I'm going to try giving it a lump sum instead of specific direct costs.
Right.
So lump sum, let's tell it $80,000.
$80,000. Okay. And so notice we're doing it, we're sort of truncating it here because we're doing a demo, and Lee J kindly says, put this into one lump sum, but you could break it down and give it all of the different, as you probably would in a risk analysis, but let's just do this for the demo. So we've given it 80,000 lump sum. It's examining it. It's focusing on the operations, blah, blah, blah. Checking the operational impact, evaluating. All right, summary of response. Party A estimates that pursuing this matter. Risk category is financial risk. It's $80,000. Now the next question. Party B has stated that delivery delays increase their costs. To assess the strength of your position in a neutral forum, what specific documentation or records does Party A possess to verify the actual delivery dates and the reasons for any potential variances from the schedule?
I have bills of lading showing delivery dates signed by the recipient for each shipment, only one of which was late.
I'm sorry, signed by recipient.
For each shipment,
only one of which
was late.
Yep.
By 1 week. Okay.
Perfect. Love it. So you could be sitting in conference room 1, you could be on the screen in breakout room 1, and you can be doing this, walking through this with counsel. You could do this pre-mediation. You can, a variety of different things. I'd get really technical and say you can create a GPT or a gem and send it over to them and have them walk through doing it and send it to you when you're done, so that you have the information ahead of time. There's a lot of different ways that you could use this information or use this technology, but let's keep it simple where you're doing it with them. So it gave a summary of the response and it assigned it to the evidentiary risk. Now, question 3, the case facts indicate a mutual desire to preserve a future working relationship. What is the estimated financial value or strategic importance of the future business with Party B that Party A, you, place at risk if this dispute escalates or results in a termination?
Great question. I would say my gross profit from dealing with Party B is approximately $240,000 annually.
You don't have to spell everything right, by the way, so I'm just going to leave the typo. Party B is approximately
$240,000 annually.
240. And it's moving a little slow again because we have a couple people on a Zoom screen and that just always slows it down. So it's put it into category relationship risk. It's added the 240,000. Question 4, the case facts state that Party A reported the late payments disrupted operations. Apart from the financial cost of the litigation itself, what specific operational impacts or constraints is Party A currently facing or will face regarding its supply chain or ability to serve other clients if these funds remain outstanding for an extended period?
We have a good banking relationship, so we would only be paying interest to the bank due to our not having these funds for the duration they're outstanding. And I understand the banking relationship is a thing of the 90s, but you know.
For the time not paid. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. All right. These are different every time we do them. So Lee J and I have not run through this, so we don't know what this is going to look like. But think about doing this and walking through it. I will say, I have found part of the beauty of doing this with the technology, with another human being, is people become very focused and think very strategically about the information that they're inputting to this. And then they're seeing it reflected back to them in the summary of the response, and they're seeing it assigned to the category of risk in the moment. And it brings a new focus to how you're walking through this, as opposed to jotting it out on a yellow pad or something like that. It just brings a different feel to this process. All right, moving to the legal process itself. Litigation involves not just money, but time. Basically, it's asking how much time away from core business duties would this likely require?
Before I answer that, let me just say that the time it's taking that you're apologizing for as it's thinking is not a bad thing. To me, it's akin to a mediator taking a strategic pause when walking somebody through these things. I'm literally sitting here in the role thinking about, wow, I hadn't thought about the opportunity cost or the lost business. I was just thinking about the contracts in the past tense. And I'm thinking about that while it's thinking about the next prompt. So it's not ineffective that it's making me sit and stew with some of these answers in between.
See, this is why you want to have Lee J as your wingman, right? Because he brings that extra level of thought to this. And I love that even in doing a role play, don't we all love, no one likes doing role plays, but it's always amazing how much it actually does bring up for you. So time away from core business duties.
It's not going to be a very complex case. We'll only have a couple of depositions and just a handful of documents.
Join the meeting.
So I'm thinking we're probably talking about 50 to 60 executive hours, manager/executive hours.
Okay, executive/manager. Okay. Calculating risk impact, evaluating procedural burden, revising risk categories, summary of response, and then risk category is operational risk. Question 6, Party B has asserted that delivery delays increase their costs, and you acknowledged one shipment was late. It's getting on you now. Well, you have evidence of delivery dates. What is the potential financial magnitude of the damages or offsets Party B is claiming or could claim regarding that specific delay and the alleged associated cost increases?
No more than $10,000.
No more than $10,000. Perfect. And you see how it's walking through. I'd love to know, for those who use risk analysis, is it walking through the analysis in the way that you know? Nan, you're like my favorite person on the screen because you're a nodder. You're like, yes. It always tells me what's going on. I love nodders. They're my favorite. Party A assesses the maximum potential exposure is 10,000, financial risk. We have discussed costs and evidence. But litigation also involves procedural uncertainty. If this matter is filed in court, what is Party A's understanding of the likely timeline? Specifically, how many months or years do you anticipate it would take to reach a final enforceable judgment compared to resolving it now? Who's used that line before?
Yeah, right. This will be resolved one way or the other in 10 or 11 months.
There we go.
And so, Susan, just for time, I know it's running through its steps and its questions, but we're starting to lose a lot of folks as we're getting near the
Yeah,
bottom.
I realize. I apologize.
No worries. No, just trying to be your eyes and ears because you're doing everything else.
Question 8. I'm wondering how close it's getting to securing a judgment is distinct from collecting payment. So it's going to ask you what the risk is that they may lack the liquidity. Let me just ask it to
Yeah, the information you already have.
where we are now, just to get it to give us an idea. As you can see, it's going to walk through a pretty careful analysis. One of the things that I know, can you share that Gemini full chain of questions, please? Sure, I will send it to Darren. And then anyone who wants to continue walking through the questions, or I have given you the same thing to do with Party B. But here's Party A's risk analysis summary. Now notice what it's done. It's put it in a very nice chart. I love that it puts things into an easily accessible format. And if it doesn't, you can tell it to do that. But this makes it much easier, right? Financial risk, and it's pulled all of the financial risks together and outlined them in Party A's assessment over here. Relationship risk, operational risk, procedural risk, evidentiary risk. You can export it to sheets. This is, remember I said Gemini is tied into the G Suite, so you can just send it out there. You can copy it, you can sit down and go over it, and here are your mediator observations. Currently, the certain costs are this, are 80 plus 50 to 60 hours plus 10 months of waiting, and the risk to future revenue 240 must be weighed against the value of the disputed amount. To complete the analysis, we have one pending question regarding, can you answer one more question?
Sure.
BJ, let's do that. We'll see. We'll get your final. Would you like to answer the question? Yeah. Oh, it's the solvency risk. So the collection risk. What do you feel the collection risk is?
I have no concern about collection risk on this matter.
There we go. Let's see. Final. And then you evaluate whether you think this would be helpful in discussing it. And you would obviously run it for Party B as well, right? And that was the exercise, that was the idea. But we had so many great questions, which always happens, but I knew this group was going to be fantastic. And I love having Lee J here to help, but now it's reviewing the final. So summary of response.
Real quickly,
mediators.
one of the things it looks like it did was took fixed costs, like the costs of my attorney's fees and all of the financial costs that I'm absolutely going to have, and some of the hours of my team and all of that, but it didn't weigh like the relationship and so on. It didn't weigh some of them by the probability of outcome. Although I guess, yeah, if we take this all the way to trial, these are all real costs or risks.
That's what I think. You know, we have now explored all the major risk categories. So, it's summarized, then it gave you the mediation statement, and now it's come up with another question. So it's continuing to ask questions, but give a final review.
And I've got 2 questions out of the chat for you real quick when you finish.
Yep. Go ahead. Because it's summarizing now, so it's going to take its time.
So one of them was just for clarification. Someone thought that you said, don't even upload confidential client information into even enterprise levels of the big 3 or 4. My understanding was that you said only in enterprise levels, but
I don't into even, if it's ChatGPT, Claude, to me, those are the commercially available to everyone. And so I just feel that when a hack comes, the hack is going to come there. And so for me, putting in, confidential information, to me, that's the lowest hanging fruit for someone who's going to go after it. In fact, OpenAI has already had an issue. So for me, I don't put confidential information. I anonymize before I put anything in of a client.
I'm with you. I do the same. I love going into Word and doing find and replace and just replace somebody's name with Smith. And then when it gives me the data back, I just replace it back. I think it's worth it. I think I owe it to my clients, but that's my opinion. The other question was resources for where to go to learn more after this.
Good question. And this is one of the places where I think we have fallen down as an industry, is there's really not a lot of really good training around these. We have a lot of people who talk about the theory of it or what to be afraid of without giving us a lot more information on what we can do about it. That's why I try to, give you, here is the problem, you need to understand it, but here there are things you can do about it. I am putting together right now, which would probably be launching in February of next year, an advanced level that would build on this one, but I don't have it done yet. It's probably going to be by the end of February, maybe early March. So you can watch, sort of watch my LinkedIn or something like that, or I'll send Darren
Send something to me, Susan.
a link to it.
I'll put it up on the blog for the members with links and so on.
The other place is mediate.com. Claire and Colin put out great training. I mean, if you're going to learn from people, learn from the people who create the tech. But a lot of the time when you do the trainings, they're from the tech providers, but they're not legal tech providers, or the people who created the tech aren't affiliated with what we do. And so I find very often they don't really understand, especially with neutrals. People think they understand lawyers and they do have a better grasp of that. Our world as neutrals is very foreign to a lot of the tech world. They really don't understand what it means for us to need to be neutral and have neutrality and that. So it's hard to find good places for training.
One other thing, John Lewis mentioned in the chat that he uses it for decision tree analysis.
Yeah.
Which is a great application too.
In your materials that are on the website, there's the prompt library, but there's also just mediator prompts. And one of the prompts is a sample prompt to help you walk through doing a decision tree. And it will make it into a flow chart and it will make it into visuals. It's wonderful. Visual aids. We know that when people are going through stress, the stress of conflict, the stress of a mediation, it's hard for them to take information in. One of the great ways for people to take information in is when we give it to them in a visual format. And we can't sit there and draft something out, but who can take a lot of long words and put it into a lovely chart or mastermind or all different kinds of things that can do that for you. So let me take this down. I'm going to send the risk analysis to you all, to Darren. I'll send all the follow-up to Darren so that he has it. I know we've gone over time and I want to be respectful of your time, but I hope that what we've done here has given you some comfort and some understanding that you have so much power to make this tool work for you. And it's really in your hands. You are all competent and excellent users and practitioners. And this is just one more thing that we have a learning curve on. But I guarantee if you start learning now, just like you click on a Zoom link and hop into a Zoom room and do a mediation these days and make a breakout room without thinking about it, you are going to be using this technology. I can't imagine getting through my day right now without it. Like the other day, it wasn't available to me and I was like so cranky.
I laughed at myself as I was clicking on this to go. I went to my browser to click on this to go in, and I giggled because I have 5 ChatGPT windows open because I haven't yet taken the data from it to use it. But I'm sitting on an airplane. I'm asking. I'm doing deep dives.
Same idea. I mean, in terms of usage, I find myself using GPT. GPT is my go-to. I use it on the phone more often than I use Google these days. Google's been relegated to, what's the weather like 2 days from now, or a website I'm specifically looking for on a given subject. But yeah, general marketing and business use, I'm using GPT a few times a day. Client facing, you want to be careful. Again, I've described it as a very, very enthusiastic. I could ask it now. It's got a British accent, mine at least, and it's a very enthusiastic, wonderfully energetic, legal assistant or assistant that's prone to occasionally popping the odd LSD. And that's the hallucination thing. And to this day, there are elements of, okay, I'm going to check that if it's more substantive stuff. But for marketing, business, anything but accounting, it's extraordinarily useful. And the idea in this current time that mediators or EDR professionals might be averse to using it because of the horror stories in the New York Times, etc. Give it a go. Just get in there for a few hours and play with it. It really is a transformative technology.
I have something very mundane that
Yeah.
I just used it for this morning. Switches, light switches now, some types have like a circle and a line, and I'm never sure which one is on and which one's off. So I just asked chat, and it explained that the line means there's a solid connection to the power source. The circle means it's open. There is no connection to the power source. It's like,
who knew, right?
and it was so quick and
I
easy.
would urge you not to get a qualified electrician, Bob. I'm concerned that you're rewiring the house based on a photograph taken from under a table or something. That I'm concerned about.
So
No
I
worries.
just wanted to say, I don't look at a blank screen, a blank piece of paper, metaphorically, anymore ever. If I'm not pulling one of my templates up, I'm going into chat and having it create one for me to work with. I don't ever send anything out from chat without making it mine and doctoring it, because I'm also a control freak. But I don't look at a blank screen ever anymore. It's my jumpstart to do everything.
Well, and blank screen is what drives many practitioners crazy. Darren said, use it for your marketing, use it for your thought leadership. Not trying to sell books. I just want to talk about, you can get the book if you have Kindle Unlimited, it's free. You can download it. But my book on thought leadership, which is all about, making programs, writing articles, all that. The biggest problem is usually, where do I start? What should I write about? Who am I writing it to? So the book, in the end, I have this this QR code, and when you go to that, it's all worksheets, exercises, and AI prompts that will walk you through using AI to help you with thought leadership. Thought leadership is you taking your expertise and your thoughts. You have to put that in there. So the risk is low, right? On it's going to be outward facing, but you have to create it. But you can use these tools to help you create it. And that's the whole book. Every chapter has like 3 different worksheets that will help you. And all of them have sample prompts for you to walk through. So if you want some exercise, try that, or try something like that.
Hey, Darren, maybe you can send that QR code out to everybody who is in attendance today.
Yes, I'll be putting an email blast out to all the members. So the folks that watch it next week, or the folks that they can watch it 10 years from now, once we're all invaded by Elon Musk's robots and we're cogs in the machine.
Specifically, though, I was referring to the QR code for the book.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
yes,
no,
okay.
that's the QR code for the bonus materials that go with the book, but you can access the book on the website. Or if you go to Amazon, it's called the Thought Leadership Playbook. And if you go on Amazon, again, if you are an Amazon Kindle Unlimited, it's zero, it's free. I think if you want to just buy the Kindle, I think it's $9. But I think it's a good book. But I really am not trying to sell books.
I just buy a copy. It's terrific. It bookends a lot of what we talked about today very nicely. So,
well, thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Hey, Susan, do you have time for a question?
Of course.
Yeah, please,
oh, hi, Michael.
Hey, how are you? I always learn so much whenever you and I speak, and
thank you.
Are you aware of any? And it hasn't come up. I can't think of any of my arbitrations. But are you aware of anyone that's ever asked for people's chats as part of a discovery request?
Not yet, but it's becoming a question. I mean, it's becoming a concern for people, right? It's becoming something. Thank you, Lee J. Everybody. Thank you, Lee J. He has to go.
Thank you.
It is definitely a question that I've gotten before, and I think that that's one of the things that's going to come up sooner or later. The other way that these tools have come up, I haven't seen a case yet. I've been looking. Thank you, Laura. It's lovely to see you. I just saw you on screen. Is for attorneys, when clients are using these tools. Frankly, other industries are using these tools way more than we are in this legal world. Well, think about you as an attorney writing a letter with a little bit of attorney-client privileged advice in it out to a client. They get your email or your letter. We don't send letters anymore. They get your email.
No.
And what do they do? Because they want to understand it. They want to think about it. Well, they upload your letter or your email into ChatGPT. What did they do to privilege?
They've destroyed it.
Maybe.
Maybe. Well, it depends what type of if they're using an enterprise
Right.
Model or not. But if they're just using a simple model, then yeah, they put it out there into the world. I'm not aware of anything where it's come up. I suspect how it's going to come up very quickly is with regard to expert reports and as part of my standard arbitration order, it's give all of the information that the expert reviewed or relied upon, and I haven't seen it yet, but I can imagine that all of a sudden, how did AI help in the formulation of this expert report is going to come up very, very quickly.
Well, expert reports are getting dinged for having AI generated hallucinations and misinformation in them. That has happened.
Yeah.
But yes, but here's the question with that is, again, I think we have a perception that using this tool to help us draft things is somehow an improper use. And I would say that it is not. Again, our judges have their clerks draft their opinions, our partners have their associates draft their motions, and I think it's the supervision of that and the fact checking that is where we run into the ethical problems. But I think very quickly we all need to think about getting over it being a bad thing to have these tools help us. In fact, if what comes out is a good quality brief that's factually correct and does a good job for our client, which is what we want, then we've just used another tool to help us do that. It's when we fall down on the other concomitant ethical obligations around it. But you're bringing up such great points, Michael, and this is what I mean. I don't think litigation has caught up to the technology. The other area is, and it's going to come faster, is in the clients' lives and their businesses. I just finished taking a course at Northwestern's Kellogg, and it was on AI transformation in business. And there were like 500 people taking this online courses. And I was one of the only ones from the legal field. That should tell you something about us and our aversion to AI. But there were people from manufacturing, construction, from every single and they are using this all the time to do big stuff. They're not using it to draft emails. They're using it to figure out, how to save money on the windmill that's generating the power for an entire grid. And when that doesn't work properly because the AI made a mistake, and so somebody has a claim because the hospital went down and who knows what's going to come, but those are coming. And they're AI based, and it's the practitioners who get on top of that type of thing, how their industry, you all have your industries that you're probably experts in, that you've practiced in for years, that you know better. You need to find out how your industries are using AI, because that's where the litigation is going to come. And you want to be first to market neutrals who understand that stuff. And I know I'm jumping up to a higher level here, but for those who really want to have that opportunity to, be the go-to person, AI related matters are going to be the future of neutral work. And it's just going to expand, because the more AI gets used in business, the more it's going to show up in litigation. And so it's an ever feeding thing, but first to market. And who can help you with this? AI. Go to AI and say, I'm construction neutral, and I'd like to know the different ways that AI is being used in construction that might lead to future disputes.
Well, Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up. It was your very first, and one of the things that the light bulbs that always went off my head, but one of your talks a long time ago was how the AI itself can help you draft the query. And unlike the Google Mind, where the Google Mind, you have to write that query just right. In the AI, and the example, I actually did it during your course today, where I think the question was draft an opening statement for my mediation, right? And so I said, draft the opening statement for my mediation. What other information would you like to see from me that will enable you to draft a better opening statement for me? And bam, within just a few seconds, it generated a checklist of here's all the information that you can get and you can upload or whatever that you have that will let me tailor this opening statement for your case. And you can't do that with Google. That's the owl mind.
Yeah. And that's actually great. I'm glad you shared that. I shared it in a different context, but it's when you do not need to know the right question to ask. You just need to know what it is you want to know, or even just where you want to go. And then you tell the AI to ask you the questions that it needs to give you what you want. That's the difference. And when you get that, it changes everything.
Susan, we'll jump to Bob in Tennessee, Bob Arrington.
Okay, and then Bob.
Then we'll likely wrap it unless maybe
I know, but Darren's like, Susan, I got a life to live here. I can do this all day.
No, my takeaway, Susan, from this, with all the useful information, is that AI is a tool. Right now, it's not really intelligent. It's a large language model software program that is very effective at making rapid correlations. And the person or persons who are negligent or unethical are not the tool. It's the tool user, whether it's Homo habilis or one of us or one of our clients. And as long as we realize it's a tool and know how to use it, we can use it like we use any other tool.
And that's 100%. It's just, this particular tool is very hard to become competent on. That's the hard part about this tool, because there's very little training about it. There's very little, ability for someone to come in, and you really need this sort of level of here's what the danger is, and here are the tools or the ways to strategies and ways to work around that. Most people are finding out about the dangers, and they're not hearing how they can still work with the tools without that. But you're 100% right. It is a tool. It has not moved to the place of taking over our lives as yet. It will get there, but it's not there.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the floor?
And know that I'm always available. I love answer, as I just said to Darren, who wants to get, bring this to a conclusion. I am always available for questions, for discussions about this. For those out there who know me, I could do this all day. I find this absolutely fascinating. I'm putting my email address in the chat, Susan at Susan E. Guthrie. Please feel free to reach out if you have questions or you want to know something more, or I didn't cover something, or you want to follow something up. And the only last thing is, if you follow me on LinkedIn, I put out sample prompts. I put out articles about using this, different ways you can use it. When I find a new tool, I try to share it with you all. I really want to make this an accessible technology for us in this field.
And I think today has moved the ball forward considerably. I'll ask the members to take their unmute, and so that we can give Susan a deserved round of applause.
Well, thank you to all of you. You've been wonderful, and look at you, diehard, sticking around to the very last minute. So I very, very much appreciate it. There should be a survey that's going to pop up after the Zoom closes. I would greatly, if you could just, I take all feedback. I actually appreciate constructive feedback. I really want this program and these programs to be helpful to my colleagues. So any information you can give me, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you very, very much for having me. And Darren, thank you. It was so wonderful to be able to come back to NADN. I love it.
It was fun to work with you again. Just a reminder to the folks, I see lots of veterans of the retreat here, the folks that have not been, do hopefully see if we can put the dates aside. We're locking down the Four Seasons in Nashville, which isn't too shabby, August 19th through 22nd of next year. So I hope to see many of you there in person, and we can, have a pint and more than likely have another 2.5 days of top tier level training, which will be CLE accredited, because Kathy here will do the paperwork long in advance, and that will be on her to-do list next summer.
If anyone, Darren, one thing I can say, if anyone wants a certificate of attendance, I can give you that if you want to try and apply, I have that for this program. So if anybody wants that, I'll send you the information, and people can just send me an email that they want one, and I'll have my assistant send one out.
Fantastic. Okay. Wonderful. Well, lovely to see you. If we don't speak before, some of you do have a wonderful holiday season. And again, I hope to see you in person next year. This went so well, we'll likely do something similar every couple of months or so. When there's a new breakthrough technology, or the robots are marching on the Capitol.
Oh, there's a lot more we can do, Darren.
I'm sure that, yeah. Well, again, on the advanced stuff, maybe we'll chat near the new year, and maybe we'll
be
get
fun.
some of the cards. We'll do it again. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Happy
Thank you,
holidays.
everyone.
Thank you, Darren.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
For now.